Chapter 858. The battle on Spirit Peak ended quickly. Without the spell cultivator controlling it, the power of the spell was greatly reduced. It crashed into Lu Ye's defensive spiritual pattern and shattered it. Lu Ye's figure flew out. Although he was in a sorry state, he was not seriously injured. When Lu Yi rushed to Spirit Peak, he saw his second senior sister, Shui Yuan, at a glance. There was also a cultivator with blood at the corner of his mouth. His face was pale and he was holding his chest. Looking at his attire, it was obvious that he was a spell cultivator. The spell that attacked Lu Yi just now was also cast by him. At this moment, the spell cultivator explained to Shui Yuan with a distressed face, "Senior sister Shui Yuan, it's really a misunderstanding. I received a secret order that there would be a thief from Wanmo Ridge passing by and I was ordered to capture him. Who knew that this would happen?" "Whose secret order was it?" Shui Yuan asked coldly. The spell cultivator smiled bitterly. "Senior sister is also a guard of the military province. You should know that the law is like a mountain. Don't make things difficult for me." Since it was a secret order, how could he casually tell others? Shui Yuan stared at him coldly. After a long while, she gritted her teeth and said, "Get lost." The spell cultivator took a deep breath and cupped his fists at Shui Yuan before leaving quickly. "Second senior sister." Lu Yi stepped forward. Lu Yi was not surprised that Shui Yuan might be following behind him to protect him. Although he did not find any trace or aura of Shui Yuan along the way, he could feel that someone was following him when he left Jade Blood Sect. The sect master was with Master, so the person behind him could only be his second senior sister. "Are you all right?" Shui Yuan turned around and asked. She glanced at Lu Yi from head to toe. After confirming that he was unharmed, she was relieved. "I'm fine." Lu Yi shook his head. "What will happen if I don't arrive at Grand Sky City on time? Military orders are like mountains. If you don't arrive on time, you'll definitely die." Lu Yi raised his eyebrows. "Someone wants to kill me? It seems that you've realized it." Lu Yi said, "I didn't think about it before, but some things are just too coincidental." He had just left the Jade Blood Sect for Grand Heaven City when he encountered a flood along the way. Then, he encountered the Grand Heaven Alliance's sword cultivators who were chasing after the Myriad Devil Ridge scoundrels. Unfortunately, the Myriad Devil Ridge scoundrels wanted to capture him when they were escaping. If these two incidents were just coincidences, then the fact that he had been ambushed by that spell cultivator was worth thinking about. A powerful attack from a true lake stage cultivator was something that Lu Yi might not be able to defend against even with the defensive spirit rune. It could be said that if Shui Yuan didn't appear in time to injure the cultivator and prevent him from casting his spell, Lu Yi would definitely be injured. It might even be a serious injury. Once that happened, the journey would definitely be delayed, and whether or not they could reach Vast Sky City before the time limit was another matter altogether. The law cultivator who ambushed him might not know the truth. But from his point of view, even if he had seriously injured Lu Yi, as long as his life was not in danger, there was nothing wrong with it. He was just following orders. At most, it would be a misunderstanding. When the time came, he could just apologize. This was also the reason why Shui Yuan didn't kill him. If she really killed a true lake stage cultivator from the same camp, the situation would become very troublesome. What's more, he might have been used. From the looks of it, the flood and the escaping Wanmo Ridge cultivators were just probing? Lu Yi suddenly understood. These two incidents, while delaying Lu Ye's journey, were mainly to test whether there was an expert protecting Lu Yi. They didn't see any traces of the Jade Blood Sect's experts, which was why they attacked directly. "Little junior brother, you are very smart." Shui Yuan looked at Lu Yi. "The road to Vast Sky City is thorny, you must be careful." "I know." Lu Yi nodded. To be able to arrange all these things without anyone noticing, the person behind the scenes must have extraordinary power and status. Their target wasn't him, but the Jade Blood Sect. The Wanmo Ridge wasn't a monolithic block, but wasn't the vast Sky Alliance the same? A large and small faction formed by sects and clans, with many factions within. It was very normal for them to have their own plans. The poison left behind by the Jade Blood sect more than 30 years ago left many people brooding over it. There won't be any more waves on the road ahead. After entering the military province guards, remember to keep a low profile. Since Shui Yuan had already appeared, the person behind the scenes wouldn't dare to do anything to avoid being caught. Yes, senior sister, take care. Lu Yi bowed and turned to leave. Looking at the direction Lu Yi left, Shui Yuan was silent for a long time. After a long while, she raised her hand and tapped on her battlefield imprint, sending out a few messages. Just as Shui Yuan said, there were no more waves on the road ahead. Lu Yi sped all the way and finally arrived at Vast Sky City in the evening. The 12 passes of the military province were the front line for the Vast Sky Alliance to fight against the Wanmo Ridge. After these 12 passes was the center of the entire military province guards. Vast Sky City was also the last line of defense for the Vast Sky Alliance. Just the city wall alone was 100 zhang tall. On the city wall, there were traces of time, and many traces left behind after a great battle could be faintly seen. A few decades ago, Vast Sky City had experienced a great calamity and was almost captured by the Wanmo Ridge. If the center was captured that day, the military province would definitely be in danger. So far, all the cities that Lu Yi had seen were like grass in front of a big tree in front of Vast Sky City. Even if he was dozens of miles away, he could clearly see the various defensive structures on the city wall. Moving his body, he quickly arrived in front of Vast Sky City. Lu Yi looked left and right, trying to find the city gate. After looking around, he realized that there was no gate in the city. There were constantly cultivators rushing over from all directions, and all of them directly rushed into the city. Lu Yi understood that for cultivators who could fly, there was no need for the city gate to exist. If it really existed, it might instead become a weak point in the defense. If he wanted to enter the city, he could just fly in. Learning from the others, Lu Yi directly flew over the city wall and rushed into the city. As soon as he stepped into Vast Sky City, Lu Yi felt the battlefield imprint on the back of his hand jump slightly and emit a blue light urgently. Under normal circumstances, there would only be such a reaction when a cultivator took the initiative to show his battlefield imprint. However, there was clearly a mysterious force in Vast Sky City that could stimulate the battlefield imprint of all cultivators who entered the city to determine the camp of the person who came in. In this way, no cultivator from Wanmo Ridge could barge into this place. Although the city was large, there were not many cultivators in the city. Most of them were Cloud River tier cultivators who had just rushed here from outside. There was an accident at the Cloud River battlefield. At this time, it was merging with the Peerless Continent, causing the Cloud River battlefield to be temporarily closed. The Cloud River tier cultivators who had nowhere to go naturally flocked to the front line of the confrontation between the two camps. No matter what, after entering the military prefecture guards, they could receive a monthly salary. That was real military merit. If they killed enemies at the front line or completed missions given by the military prefecture guards, they could receive even more benefit. To cultivators, this was naturally a great attraction. Hence, at this stage, there were many cultivators in Vast Sky City. They all rushed here from various large sects to prepare to join the military prefecture guards. Usually, there were very few people in this large city. 99% of the military prefecture guards were at the front line. There were not many people left in the center. Now that they had arrived at Vast Sky City, they naturally had to report first. He was the majority of the Cloud River tier cultivators who came here. They were all different. Others came here of their own accord to join the military prefecture guards, while he came here after receiving a transfer order. Hence, at this stage, there were many cultivators in Vast Sky City. They all rushed here from various large sects to prepare to join the military prefecture guards. Usually, there were very few people in this large city. 99% of the military prefecture guards were at the front line. There were not many people left in the center. Now that he had arrived at Vast Sky City, he naturally had to report first. He was different from the majority of the Cloud River tier cultivators who came here. Others came here of their own accord to join the military prefecture guards, while he came here after receiving a transfer order. Hence, he had to report to the dispatch office first. Shui Yuan had specially reminded him about this before he came. The so-called 3-day time limit was not based on the time he arrived at Vast Sky City, but on the time he reported to the dispatch office. He was not too sure where the dispatch office was, but this kind of thing could be easily found out by asking around. Not long after, Lu Yi arrived outside a large hall. There were cultivators standing guard outside the hall. When they saw Lu Yi, they all looked over with rapt attention. Lu Yi clasped his fists. Jade Blood Sect's Lu Yi has come to report. The person on the left said, "Wait here. The commander is receiving a guest." Lu Yi then stood quietly to one side, waiting silently. At this time, it was already night, and the sky was full of stars, but the whole Vast Sky City was still extraordinarily lively. A large number of cultivators flew here and there in the sky. Vast Sky City did not forbid flying. After all, this city was vast. If flying was not allowed, it would waste a lot of time just traveling. Lu Yi was bored, so he raised his head to look, and very soon, he saw something. There seemed to be an unspoken rule for cultivators flying, and that was, the higher the cultivation level, the higher they could fly. For example, Spirit Stream tier cultivators could control flying spirit tools. Most of them could fly within 10 centimeters of the ground. When one reached the Cloud River tier, it would be within 60 meters, and when one reached the True Lake tier, it would be within 60 meters. It was unknown how this rule came to be. Although the cultivators came and went, it was quite lively, but the dispatch office was quite cold. It seemed that he was the only one waiting for the dispatch office. Lu Yi did not think too much about it. Now that the situation was here, he might as well take it as it came. The stars and moon moved, and time passed. Lu Yi frowned. The time limit on the transfer order was based on the time he would report to the dispatch office. It was calculated, so although he arrived at Vast Sky City within the time limit, if he did not report to the dispatch office in time, he would probably be punished by military law, and his head would roll. Thinking of this, Lu Yi stepped forward and came to the cultivator on duty. He cupped his fists and said, "Senior Marshal Brother, may I ask when the dispatch office will receive me?" That cultivator still only glanced at Lu Yi, and replied casually, "Wait." Lu Yi frowned. "May I trouble you to pass on the message?" That cultivator's expression was rather impatient. Lu Yi stared at him fixedly. In the main hall, the fragrance of tea wafted. A very charming woman raised her cup and sipped lightly. She held a jade scroll in her hand and checked it quietly. From time to time, the corners of her mouth would curl up, as if she had seen something interesting. On a chair at the side, there was a man in martial arts clothes reclining. He crossed his legs and looked happy and content. "Leg." The woman did not even raise her head and said softly. The man in martial arts clothes snorted, put down his crossed leg, and sat up straight. "He's already here, and you don't want to see him? It's not time yet, what's the hurry?" "Hurry. If the time limit is up, he will be punished by military law. Aren't you afraid that Shui Yuan will take your life? That girl has also advanced to the Divine Ocean tier. Hurry. Click to download the best book chasing app. Many readers use this to read books aloud. Chapter 859. Don't you have a good relationship with Shui Yuan? Logically speaking, you should take care of the people of Jade Blood Sect. What are you trying to do? The man was puzzled. Personal relations are personal relations. This is Grand Sky City and the dispatch office. How can you mix personal relations with military affairs? The woman spoke in a righteous tone. The man chuckled. I almost believed you. Whatever. At this moment, violent spirit energy fluctuations came from outside the hall, followed by someone shouting, How dare you! The sound of spirit energy fluctuations mixed with the sound of spirit weapons colliding could be heard. Then, 3 figures rushed into the hall, 1 in front and 2 behind. The man looked at Lu Yi in astonishment and blurted out, You've got guts. What was this place? This was Grand Sky City's dispatch office. No one had ever dared to barge in so directly. What surprised him even more was that Lu Yi had really barged in. The 2 guards at the door were quite strong, but they couldn't stop Lu Yi at all. On the other side, Lu Yi looked up and saw the man and woman at a glance. His heart trembled as he realized how strong the 2 were. Both of them were at the Divine Sea Realm. He didn't know who was the dispatch office's master and who was the guest. But he had been waiting outside for so long, and there was still no intention to see him. Obviously, they were deliberately making things difficult for him. So no matter how long he waited outside, it was meaningless. In that case, he might as well not wait and just barge in. With a flip of his hand, he held up a bronze token. It was the transfer order that Zhao Che had sent to Jade Blood Sect. Lu Yi said loudly, Jade Blood Sect disciple Lu Yi is here to report. The 2 cultivators who rushed in after him were both annoyed and frightened. One of them said, Please forgive us, dispatch office's master. This person, you may leave. Yes. The 2 cultivators felt that they had lost face. They glared at Lu Yi hatefully and quickly retreated. Only then did Lu Yi look at the charming woman in palace attire. So she was the dispatch office's master. The woman got up and walked slowly to Lu Yi, standing 10 meters away from him. Her expression was indifferent and she didn't smile. Jade Blood Sect's Lu Yi has come to report. Lu Yi called out again. The woman raised her hand, and the copper token instantly flew into her palm. She then casually tossed it into the token on the table beside her. Thus, Lu Yi could be considered to have complied with the transfer order. You really have guts. The woman snorted coldly. The time limit is almost up. Disciple has been anxiously waiting outside. Minister, please forgive me. So you barged in? I had no choice. What a helpless move. The woman seemed to be very annoyed. The might of the spirit sea realm spread out. Lu Yi felt the pressure as heavy as a mountain. Sweat appeared on his forehead. She coldly said, I don't care what status you have in the Blue Blood Sect or what you've done before. Now that you've come to Grand Heaven City, you must abide by the rules here. Didn't anyone tell you about this before you came? Senior Marshal Sister once warned me. Since there are instructions, how can I not bear them in mind? If everyone was as unruly as you, the army of soldiers would have been destroyed long ago. She turned to look at the man. Qian Wudong, you are the Minister of the Law Department. How can you break into an important military base without prior notice? The man named Qian Wudong looked serious and said in a deep voice, According to the law, you should be beheaded. Lu Ye's eyebrows twitched. Beheaded? Hu Po, who was squatting on his shoulder, immediately growled at the woman. However, the woman flicked him on the forehead and he immediately quieted down. Qian Wudong changed the topic. Since this is the first offense, you can be whipped and locked up for 10 days as a warning to others. If you do it again, there will be no mercy. Martial God of Azura, Lu Yi finally understood what this woman was planning. It was not a bad idea. The woman looked at him leisurely. Since you, the Minister of the Law Department, have spoken, then I will leave it to you. She turned around and left. Qian Wudong nodded and walked to Lu Ye's side. He looked at him with a smile. Kid, your luck is not so good. Come with me. He stepped out of the room. Lu Yi followed with a sullen face, full of helplessness. He thought that he would be able to make a name for himself after joining the Force Prefecture Guard. Now, he was going to be punished before he even officially joined the Force Prefecture Guard. However, the situation at that time didn't allow him to make any other choice. The Minister of the Law Department was obviously targeting him. If he didn't break in directly, he might really be delayed until the time limit was up. That would be a big problem. Compared to that, receiving a little punishment was nothing. Lu Yi would remember this, and he would get his revenge sooner or later. As for finding a way to escape from here, not to mention that he didn't have the chance, even if he did, Lu Yi wouldn't do something that would bring shame to the Force. Running away before a battle was a big taboo in the Force Prefecture Guard. Kid, some things are not as simple as you think. Some people are not as simple as you think. Now that you have just come to Grand Sky City, and you are still young, it's natural that you can't see it clearly. You will slowly understand it in the future. Qian Wudong's voice suddenly came from the front. Lu Yi didn't say a word and just followed behind him. Although the Law Department minister didn't seem to have any bad intentions towards him and even decided to give him a lighter punishment, it was hard to know what a person's heart was. Lu Yi was new here and didn't know anything. Naturally, he would stick to the principle of less talking and more observing. You are quite cautious. Not bad. Qian Wudong seemed to have noticed his thoughts and smiled. He didn't care. The two of them flew across half of Grand Sky City and landed somewhere. There was a place that looked like a small mountain. At the entrance of the mountain, there was a huge and ferocious Meng beast. Its mouth was wide open and the insides were pitch black. Just looking at it gave people a bone-chilling feeling. This was the prison of Grand Sky City. It was also the place where all the Force Prefecture Guards were frightened. There was a rumor that if you entered this place, you would lose a layer of skin even if you didn't die. There were a lot of Force Prefecture Guards and they were strict with the law. There were always some cultivators who broke the law of Force Prefecture Guards for various reasons. Most of these cultivators who broke the law of Force Prefecture Guards would be sent here to be punished. All the Force Prefecture Guards wouldn't easily come within 3 miles of this place. Even if they flew over, they would try their best to avoid it. Minister, why are you here? Seeing Qian Wudong, the cultivators who were on duty in front of the prison were all shocked. An elderly man even hurried to greet him. Send someone here. Qian Wudong reached out and grabbed Lu Yi, who had followed him here and was looking around curiously, as if he was holding up a chicken. The elderly man was stupefied. For many years, countless Force Prefecture Guards had been in and out of the prison. However, this was the first time that the minister personally sent someone here. The elderly man's expression suddenly became serious. Minister, what did this kid do? He instinctively thought that Lu Yi had done something unforgivable. Otherwise, why would the minister come here? In an instant, the elderly man's mind filled with many evil scenes. He looked at Lu Yi with a very serious expression. Nothing big. It's just a kid who didn't know the rules and broke into the dispatch department. Qian Wudong explained casually. The elderly man didn't know what to say. He looked at Lu Yi with a sympathetic expression. Breaking into the dispatch department wasn't a big deal, but it wasn't a small matter either. The minister probably bumped into him, so he was sent here. I'll leave him to you guys. Take care of him, Qian Wudong said and flew up. Minister, take care. The elderly man understood tacitly and bowed together with the others. When Qian Wudong was far away, the elderly man turned to look at Lu Yi. He waved his hand with a smile. Young friend, please. Thank you. Lu Yi nodded and walked toward the mouth of the giant beast. He disappeared into the darkness. As the elderly man walked down, the dark and damp atmosphere hit him in the face. Soon, he arrived at the first floor of the basement. There were cage-like things on the left and right. Many of them had cultivators trapped in them. Many of them looked miserable. It was obvious that they had been punished. Some of them were even gasping for breath. The elderly man said with a smile, "The prison is a place to imprison those who break the laws of the Wei Kingdom. It's not as good as the environment you were in before. However, every country has its own laws and rules. If they break the laws of the Wei Kingdom, they have to be punished. Young friend, you have broadened your horizons by coming here today. You should be more careful in the future. The laws of the Wei Kingdom are very strict. Thank you for your advice, sir. Lu Yi appreciated the elderly man's kindness. What he saw in front of him made him feel the strict laws of the War Province Guards. If he really did something here, the sect master would be too far away to help him. Lu Yi secretly warned himself. The cultivators imprisoned here are not only those in the Cloud River realm. There are also those in the True Lake realm, and even those in the Divine Sea realm. The elderly man continued to speak. What kind of punishment will I receive? Compared to others, Lu Yi cared more about himself. 3 lashes and 10 days of imprisonment. The elderly man didn't hide anything. Before Qian Wudong left, he had already told him to deal with Fang He. Lu Yi nodded. Although he wasn't a body cultivator, his body was strong. 3 lashes wasn't a big deal. As for 10 days of imprisonment, that was even less of a problem. The elderly man laughed eerily. Young friend, don't think that the punishment is light. Of course not. Suddenly, an angry roar came from the front. It's just lashing. Hit me hard. If I cry out, I'll be the one who raised you. The elderly man shook his head. There are always those who don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. As they spoke, they came to a place where the cultivators who broke the law were punished. Lu Yi looked over and saw a bald man hanging in the air with his hands and feet tied. He shouted angrily, I told you to hit me directly. Why are you still hanging me? I'm a true Lake Realm cultivator. I still have my pride. All right. Stop talking nonsense. I'll hit you now. You can take it. Come on. The man provoked. A sharp sound broke through the air, followed by a crack. The long whip landed on the man's body. Lu Ye's eyelids twitched. He suddenly had the urge to draw his sword and kill his way out. Because the moment the whip landed, the true Lake Realm cultivator's eyes suddenly turned white. His body trembled like a sieve, as if he was suffering great torture and pain. After a full 5 breaths, the man slowly came back to his senses. He opened his mouth and let out a series of miserable screams. He clicked to download the Best Book Chaser app. Many readers used it to read books aloud. Chapter 860. The blood-curdling screams rang out incessantly. The brawny man who had been yelling incessantly just a moment ago no longer had any backbone left. The corner of Lu Ye's eyes twitched. The elderly man who led him in explained, this defiant dragon spike is a spirit artifact. Not only does it hit the body, it also hits the soul. Many cultivators who don't know the truth have suffered greatly here. Little friend, you must hold on. Although Gan Wudong told them not to kill, they couldn't be too obvious. They had to go through the motions. There were screams here and there, but many practitioners who were imprisoned in the nearby cages were shouting. One-eyed wolf, use more strength. This guy still has the strength to scream. You are being merciful, right? Old worm, how many bites did you give him? Why are you beating him so lightly? Are you tickling him? Yes. Beat him to death. It was as if he was watching a good show and didn't mind blowing things up. Lu Yi stood aside and watched coldly. He saw the spiritual treasure long whip full of barbs fall on the light again and again. The brawny man's body was badly mutilated. The long whip was called Dragon Thorn, and the practitioner who executed it was Kuang Shaowan, who was described as sloppy, had the cultivation level of Lao Feng, one of Country E's 10 cultivators. He should be the Lao Feng mentioned by the surrounding cultivators. One-eyed wolf. One-eyed wolf lived up to its name. It only had one eye. The other eye, El Immortal V. Right, must have encountered some disaster. Even if it was the only one left. This eye also emitted a ghostly light, which made people's hearts palpitate. He was the executioner of the execution prison. Everyone who entered the execution prison to be tortured had to go through his hands, and all of them had a layer of skin peeled off. Therefore, he was also a famous existence in the army prefecture guard. Many practitioners who had been in and out of the prison changed their expressions when they heard his name. No one knew what the brawny bald man had done. He had the cultivation of the true lake realm, and his body was extremely strong. The dragon thorn was not only a strong weapon, but also a powerful weapon. After 5 whips, the brawny man was already dead. Lu Ye's heart sank when he saw the guy who had been so majestic just a moment ago hanging there like a dead dog. From this, one could see the foresight of the prison. If it weren't for the fact that the burly man was hanging there limply, it wouldn't have been easy to carry out the punishment. While unconscious, he was whipped 4 more times. Only then did the cultivators from the execution prison untie him and take him away. The one-eyed wolf walked to the side and sat on a blood-stained chair. It grabbed the flagon next to it and drank a mouthful of wine. "Young friend, it's your turn," the elderly man said. Lu Yi took a deep breath and grabbed Hu Po from his shoulder. He stuffed the Pan Shan saber into Hu Po's mouth and let Hu Po bite it, then strode forward. "Here comes a brat." Someone in a nearby cage saw Lu Yi, and he smiled as he said, "You're still at the Solid Cloud River tier. Brat, what did you do?" "He was actually captured and brought here. Could it be that he's a deserter?" "Brat, let me teach you a lesson. Don't use your spiritual energy to block it. Relax your mind completely. 1 whip and you'll faint, and you won't be able to feel anything after that." Brother Zhuang is speaking from experience. "Brat, don't be ungrateful." Shouts came from all directions. Lu Yi walked to the place of execution, and the cultivators from the execution prison came forward to tie up his hands and feet. The rope used to tie him was obviously not an ordinary one. It was at least a spiritual treasure, since it could make a true lake tier cultivator unable to break free. Lu Yi didn't resist because it was unnecessary. He just let them tie him up and hang him up. Not far away, Hu Po bit the Pan Shan saber and looked at him with tears in his eyes. The elderly man walked to the one-eyed wolf and whispered a few words. The one-eyed wolf didn't even raise its head. "You know my rules." The elderly man said, "This is the order of the minister, and he was sent here by the minister himself." The one-eyed wolf raised the flagon to its mouth and stopped. It looked at the elderly man seriously. The elderly man gently nodded, indicating that he wouldn't lie to it. The one-eyed wolf turned its head and glanced at Lu Yi, who was hung up. "Don't ask me, I don't know anything." The elderly man didn't wait for the one-eyed wolf to speak. "Understood." The one-eyed wolf put down the flagon, stood up, grabbed the defiant dragon thorn, and walked behind Lu Yi. At the moment when the spiritual power was activated, the sound of breaking air was heard. Lu Yi only felt that his back was struck by a thunderbolt. The protective spiritual power was instantly broken, and severe pain spread all over his body. Compared to the physical pain, the pain in his spirit was more intense. He had experienced the pain in his spirit countless times. At that time, when his spirit was not too strong, every time he used the Mirage Stone to sharpen himself, he would feel a momentary pain when he came out of it. When he checked the information on the talent tree's leaves, the pain was also unbearable. But compared with what he was experiencing now, that pain was simply the difference between a breeze and a hurricane. He finally understood why even a true lake tier cultivator couldn't withstand such a whipping. This was not something that ordinary people could bear. With a scream, the blue veins on Lu Ye's forehead bulged, and his whole body trembled violently. The one-eyed wolf couldn't help but frown. The execution was also particular. Since it was an execution, naturally the victim should remember the lesson and not dare to do it again in the future. If you want to remember the lesson, you have to taste the pain. You must make sure that the victim doesn't faint. The strength of one's strength was a skill. The one-eyed wolf had been in charge of the punishment here for decades. It could say that he could make people faint whenever he wanted. Lu Yi was brought here by Qian Wudong, the head of the department, and he had told him to take care of him. He didn't care about him, but he couldn't ignore the department head. His original plan was to directly whip Lu Yi until he fainted. Since Lu Yi was just a Yunhe tier cultivator, he only needed to activate 1/100th of the power of the defiant dragon thorn. In this way, Lu Yi would not feel any pain in the next 2 lashes, and he would appropriately control his strength. Naturally, others wouldn't see any clues. But what surprised him was that although Lu Yi screamed miserably, there was no sign of fainting at all. What a strong spirit! The one-eyed wolf immediately understood where the problem was. The defiant dragon thorn not only hit the body, but also the spirit. If an ordinary Yunhe Tier 9 cultivator was hit by this whip, they wouldn't even scream and would directly faint on the spot. But the one in front of him was obviously different. His spirit was much stronger than expected, which was why he could withstand the defiant dragon thorn. As this thought flashed in his mind, the one-eyed wolf's hands didn't stop moving. 2 more lashes came down, and Lu Ye's back was badly mutilated. After 3 lashes, the elderly man immediately asked someone to put Lu Yi down and raised his hand to hold his arm. Lu Ye's whole body was trembling, and his mouth was hissing with cold air. This experience was unforgettable. No matter what, he couldn't come to this place in the future. "Little friend, can you withstand it?" the elderly man asked. Lu Yi gritted his teeth and nodded silently. "Amazing!" the elderly man exclaimed in admiration. He had seen clearly how powerful the one-eyed wolf's attack was. Logically speaking, the Yunhe realm cultivator would not be able to survive the whip. The one-eyed wolf did hold back for the last 2 lashes. Although they looked amazing, in fact, their power was less than 20% of the first whip. "Take any healing items you have. You're trapped. The dragon gate can't stimulate your spirit power," the elderly man whispered. The dragon trapping gate was heaven's prison for the first repairman. Cultivators were not like mortals, so the cages used to imprison them were specially refined treasures and covered by a large array. Once they entered the dragon gate, their spirit power would be suppressed in their body, and they couldn't move. Hearing this, Lu Ye's hands trembled. He took out some healing pills and swallowed them. After thinking for a while, he took out a jade bottle and kept it close to his body. Not long after, under the guidance of the elderly man, they came to an empty dragon gate and placed him inside. The elderly man said, "Little friend, have a good rest. You will be free in 10 days. Okay." Lu Yi nodded. The elderly man left, and the prison cultivators closed the dragon gate and opened the restriction. On a joyous occasion, Lu Yi felt that the spirit power in his body seemed to be blocked by an invisible person. His spirit power became stagnant and couldn't be stimulated. Now he knew the power of the dragon gate. If such a treasure were to be used to capture people, it would definitely be effective. However, how to trap the enemy within it would be a troublesome matter. The biggest difference between cultivators and mortals was that they had spirit power. Now that the spirit power was restricted, the only advantage of cultivators was the strong physique that came with the improvement of the realm. Body cultivators undoubtedly had a great advantage in this regard, but magic cultivators were unlucky. Although their physique was much stronger than mortals, it was at the bottom of all sects of cultivators. As a result, under the premise that they couldn't stimulate their spirit power, it would affect their recovery speed. Lu Yi was not worried about this. His physique was not as talented as giant armor, but it was not worse than body cultivators in the same realm. Moreover, he had obtained the broken origin of the dragon's soaring realm. The vitality in his body was vigorous and enormous. Even if his spirit power was restricted, his recovery speed was not comparable to ordinary cultivators. Silently sitting down, he raised his hand and touched Hu Po, who came in with him. "I'm fine." These words were meant to comfort both Hu Po and Yi. In this kind of environment, it was inconvenient for her to show herself. She must be worried sick. The injury on his back was nothing, but the pain in his soul was hard to get rid of. However, Lu Yi also had a way to deal with it. He had encountered this kind of situation many times. Looking left and right, and seeing that no one was paying attention to him, he took out the jade bottle he had put away earlier. Opening the bottle, he dipped his hand in a bit of water and put it in his mouth. Soul-cleansing water. For this kind of situation, this item was undoubtedly the most suitable treasure. A warm feeling spread from his soul, as if a pair of invisible hands had brushed past him. The pain disappeared, and Lu Yi even felt a little refreshed. Gently exhaling, Lu Ye's mind relaxed. This calamity was over. Chapter 861. Vast Sky City was bustling with people. A large number of cultivators from the Cloudy River battlefield had gathered here. Although they were now considered to have joined the military prefecture guards, there was no clear conclusion as to where they would be sent. Therefore, they could only stay in Vast Sky City for a short period of time. Only when they were certain of their destination would they head to the front lines to serve. There were 12 major passes in the military prefecture. Under each major pass, there were dozens to hundreds of smaller passes. The front lines used the 12 major passes as hubs and the smaller passes as nodes to form a tight line of defense to protect the Vast Sky Alliance's foundation in the military prefecture. All the major passes and small passes needed cultivators to guard them. The battle at the front lines was intense. There were many casualties among the cultivators, so the military prefecture guards needed to be replenished from time to time. Especially now that a large number of new military prefecture guards had gathered, there were Divine Ocean Realm cultivators from the 12 major passes returning to Vast Sky City to divide up the new guards. In a hall somewhere in Vast Sky City, 12 people were sitting upright, talking and laughing. Suddenly, one of them walked in and presented a jade slip with both hands. Reporting to the department heads, the list of new guards is here. Please take a look. Everyone nodded. One of the young men with a dignified appearance raised his hand, and the jade slip engraved with the list of new guards fell into his hand. He glanced at the other 11 people and smiled. Then shall we begin? Let's begin. Someone nodded. All right. The young man replied. He exerted force in his hand, and the jade slip immediately shattered. At the same time, a powerful divine sense surged and invisible ripples spread out in all directions with him as the center. This young man who didn't look very old was a Divine Ocean Realm cultivator. When the ripples spread out, thousands of fluorescent lights suddenly flew out from the crushed jade slip. In an instant, they filled the entire hall as if a starry sky had descended here. The 12 people spread out their divine senses and instantly scanned through the countless lights. The information imprinted in the fluorescent lights was clearly imprinted in their mind. Every dot of fluorescent light represented a new guard, including their background, sect, cultivation, age, and rank. It was extremely detailed. In this way, it would be convenient for the 12 people to choose the talents they like. I'll take it. One of the old men smiled. He raised his hand and pointed. A speck of fluorescent light was guided and fell into a blank jade slip in his hand. This meant that he had chosen this new guard and would bring him to the pass he represented. As for how it would be distributed when they arrived, that would be a matter for the future. The 12 of them made their moves. They didn't seem to be fast, but the countless fluorescent lights that filled the hall were rapidly disappearing. Snatch. This was a tradition that had been passed down for a long time in the military province guard. Outstanding talents were needed at every major checkpoint, and this type of thing was something that only those with fast hands would get. Therefore, every time the people from the 12 great passes came to Hao Tian City to divide up the new guards, they were all people with powerful divine senses. Only a strong spiritual sense would be able to gain the upper hand in such matters. In a short period of less than 10 minutes, all the new guards had been divided up, and to a certain extent, their fates in the future had been decided. The 12 great passes of Hao Tian City were in different situations. Some of the great passes had an advantage in the process of resisting 1mo Ridge, so it was naturally safer to go there. Some of the great passes were the opposite, so it was naturally more dangerous to go there. The youth who received the jade slip turned his head and looked around, then smiled. Looks like everyone has gained something, so let's do it this way. Wait. An old woman suddenly spoke up. Everyone looked at her. The old woman looked at the cultivator who sent the list of new guards over. Is this list incomplete? The cultivator immediately replied, all the new guards who came to Hao Tian City to report are on it, no one was left out. Not necessarily. The old woman sneered softly. As far as I know, there's still one person who isn't on the list. Oh. The youth looked suspicious. There's one person who was left out, and Elder Yu even knows about it. Looks like you pay a lot of attention to that person. Which family's junior is able to catch Elder Yu's attention? The others also looked curious. Logically speaking, these Divine Sea Realm cultivators came to divide up the new guards on behalf of their respective great passes. Now that they had gained something, they should quickly bring people to the front lines instead of worrying about whether there were any omissions on the list. That was the responsibility of the recruitment department. Moreover, most of the new guards were in the Cloud River realm, and a few in the Spirit Stream realm were not qualified to catch the attention of Divine Sea Realm cultivators. Therefore, the old woman's attention was somewhat special. To catch my attention, he's naturally not an ordinary junior. I think you've more or less heard of his name. As she spoke, she looked at the cultivator who sent the list of new guards over. That Liu Ye from Jade Blood Sect, hasn't he replied yet? As far as I know, the deadline given to him by the dispatch department has long passed. If he doesn't reply, he'll be executed according to the Wei law. If he's already replied, why isn't he on the list? Jade Blood Sect. When the others heard this, they understood what was going on. The Jade Blood Sect of the War Province was an extremely special sect. Many people were indebted to it, but many people also bore grudges. The old woman was undoubtedly the latter. Moreover, she had never concealed her hatred for the Jade Blood Sect. Back then, her only son was under the command of Feng Wujiang of the Jade Blood Sect. In the end, he made a big mistake and was executed by Feng Wujiang in front of the army to pacify the army. Later, Feng Wujiang died and the Jade Blood Sect declined. However, after so many years, the hatred in her heart could not be resolved. A few years ago, the Jade Blood Sect was about to be wiped out, but Liu Ye appeared and protected the Jade Blood Sect. Now, the Jade Blood Sect showed signs of revival. The old woman's trip this time was for both official and personal reasons. For official reasons, she represented her own great pass to select new guard. For personal reasons, she had her eyes on Liu Ye of the Jade Blood Sect. If Liu Ye really fell into her hands, he would not have a good ending. The War Province's guard army had too many honorable methods at their disposal. However, on the list of new guards, the person she was looking for was not on the list. Elder Yu, it's been so many years, and what happened back then? The young man frowned. He felt that it was somewhat inappropriate for a Divine Sea Realm cultivator to target a Cloud River Realm cultivator. Moreover, every injustice had its perpetrator and every debt its debtor. Back then, it was Feng Wujiang who executed the general in front of the army. What did it have to do with Liu Ye? When Feng Wujiang was all-powerful, Liu Ye was not even born yet. If news of this spread, it would damage the image of the War Province's guard army. Don't mention the past to this old woman, the old woman said angrily. This old woman is now the division head of Heaven's Gate's recruitment division. Selecting elite soldiers for Heaven's Gate is my duty. That Liu Ye of the Jade Blood Sect is a rising star and has a reputation. This old woman has taken a liking to him and wants to bring him to Heaven's Gate so that he can make a name for himself. What's wrong with that? There really was no problem. When these high-sounding words came out, even if the others knew what the old woman was thinking, they could not say anything. Or, you all want to steal him from me? The old woman's turbid eyes shone brightly as they swept over everyone present. Some people frowned, some people did not care. Seeing that no one spoke, the old woman looked at the cultivator. Luye is not on the list. Did he not reply? If so, according to the law, he should be executed. This disciple is not too sure. The cultivator's forehead was covered in sweat. He was only here to deliver the list. Who would have thought that something like this would happen? Also, he really did not know about Luye or Luye. If you don't know, then hurry up and ask, the old woman scolded. Yes, division heads, please wait a moment. The cultivator hurriedly responded and began to inquire about Luye. Soon there was news. His face was filled with shock. What? The old woman asked in a low voice. Reporting to division head you, that Luye of the Jade Blood sect had already replied a few days ago. But what? Seeing him hesitate, the young man could not help but urge him. The cultivator's expression was strange as he said, but I heard that when he was replying, he offended Division Head Qian and Division Head Fan, and was sent to the punishment prison by Division Head Qian. He did not have time to report to the recruitment division, so his name is not on the list. Qian Wudong, Fan Xiangyi, they were all Divine Sea Realm cultivators of the military province guards, and they were all division heads. They naturally knew who Division Head Qian and Division Head Fan were. These two people, one was the head of the Law Division, and the other was the head of the Dispatch Division. Both of them held real power. What kind of bear's heart and leopard's guts did that Luye eat to offend them? Or was there more to it than met the eye? Among the 12 people, some were deep in thought, while others did not know whether to laugh or cry. The old woman also frowned. She did not expect things to be like this, but how could she not see through the trick? This was obviously done on purpose. Luye was now in the punishment prison. It looked like he was being punished, but it was actually a form of protection. What's the punishment from the law division? The old woman asked in a low voice. 3 strokes of the whip and 10 days of imprisonment. The cultivator replied and then added, Today is the 5th day. It's just a small mistake, a small punishment is enough. Take him out and let him register at the recruitment division, the old woman said. Although Luye's punishment would be over in 5 days, she could not wait here for another 5 days. Now that the new guards had been decided, she had to quickly bring this batch of new guards back to Heaven's Gate. As for Luye, she was going to take him away today. The cultivator was instantly terrified. He looked at the other Divine Sea Realm cultivators for help. How could he rush to do something like this, even if the old woman said so? The old woman was the division head of the recruitment division in Heaven's Gate. The punishment prison was under the control of the law division. The old woman had no control over the punishment prison. Elder Yu, why do you have to make things difficult for him? When the young man spoke, he waved at the cultivator. The latter hurriedly left as if he had been pardoned. The whirlpool here was very dangerous, and he did not dare to get involved. The old woman also realized that she was being a little too forceful, so she did not stop the cultivator from leaving. Instead, she raised her hand and tapped on her battlefield imprint, quickly sending a message. Obviously, she wanted to use her connections to get Luye out of the punishment prison. Seeing this, the others could not say anything, and they all shook their heads. Chapter 862. Originally, they had no intention of staying in Haotian City any longer since the new guard had been decided. However, they couldn't just leave now. Among the 12 people, there were also some who sided with the Jade Blood sect. Seeing the old woman's message, they frowned and thought about how to resolve the matter. With the old woman's ability, it shouldn't be a big problem for her to bring out a Cloud River tier cultivator from the punishment prison. Moreover, once Luye was brought out and registered with the military recruitment department with the identity of a military prefecture guard, the old woman could justifiably bring him to Heaven's Gate Pass. Then, no one would be able to stop her unless they were willing to fight with the old woman for Luye. However, if they did that, the old woman's hatred for the Jade Blood sect would cause her to fall out with them. The divine ocean tier cultivators who sided with the Jade Blood sect all had headache. At the same time, in the dispatch office, Fan Xiangyi was sipping tea just like a few days ago. Suddenly, a figure rushed in. It was Gan Wudong. Fan Xiangyi didn't even raise her head. "What's the matter?" Gan Wudong sat down in front of her and poured himself a cup of tea. He took a sip and said, "The crazy woman surnamed you from Heaven's Gate wants to get someone out of the prison. Luye?" Fan Xiangyi immediately understood. Who else could it be? Gan Wudong snorted. A divine ocean tier cultivator plotting against a cultivator of the Cloud River tier. That's ridiculous. Hatred is like old wine. The more it ferments, the stronger it gets. Fan Xiangyi said calmly, especially for someone like him, who has half his neck in the ground. It's not easy to let go. Fortunately, I locked him up for 10 days. Now there are only 5 days left. If I don't say anything, even a fly can't get out of the prison. That crazy woman won't wait for 5 days. Let him go. Yes, Gan Wudong replied, but soon realized something was wrong. Let him go? Are you sure? If he's let out, he'll be taken to Heaven's Gate. Let him go. She can't take him away. Gan Wudong frowned. What are you doing? Are you trying to take him into the dispatch office? But that wasn't right. Whether it was his law division or Fan Xiangyi's order division, the requirements for cultivation were very high. The cultivators of the two divisions had to be at least in the true lake stage. Cloud River stage cultivators weren't qualified to join the two divisions. This was because when it came to passing down orders, the faster the better. Naturally, the requirement for one's cultivation level was very high. By the same logic, the law division would often send out soldiers to capture some state guards who had made mistakes. With Lu Ye's current cultivation, there was no way he could join the two divisions. Naturally, someone will try to snatch him away from her. Fan Xiangyi smiled sweetly. Qian Wudong looked at her side profile and vaguely sensed something. He read, "You'll be fine after you die." He immediately sent out a message. Lu Yi sat upright in the dragon cage of the punishment prison. Shen Bian's injuries were basically all healed. His heart was full, and the benefits of his strong physique were undoubtedly evident. Wherever he went, he would not be able to activate his spiritual power. It was also beneficial for his own recovery. It wasn't much of a hindrance. However, Tianwei was unable to use his heavenly energy and could not cultivate. It was a waste of time for the woman to die. While he was imprinting, his mind was suddenly shaken. He quickly regained his senses. When he opened his eyes, he saw that the elderly man who had sent him in was standing in front of him. "Young friend, you can go out now," Lu Yi asked curiously. "Isn't the time limit not up yet?" Previously, he said that he would be locked up for 10 days. Only 5 days had passed. The elderly man shook his head. "This old man is not sure. I was just following orders." Lu Yi did not ask any more questions. He stood up, and Hupa jumped onto his shoulder and crouched down. He followed the elderly man all the way out, and soon he saw the light of day again. Outside the punishment prison, the elderly man said, "The higher-ups have ordered you to go to the recruitment department immediately. It's in the direction of Yen." Woman. Lu Shipao began to write. Let's ask. The location of the recruitment department was very conspicuous. A few days ago, Lu Yi had passed by this place. At that time, it was packed with cultivators who had rushed here to register. However, the recruitment division was rather deserted today. The efficiency of the recruitment department was very high. The 2 EA alchemists had all finished registering, and even the destination had been decided. Now only Lu Yi was left. He was late. When he rushed to the recruitment department's main hall, several pairs of eyes immediately stared at him. Obviously, they were cultivators on duty here. Lu Yi saw a familiar face at a glance. Lu Ye. That person was handsome, and the mustache at the corner of his mouth added a touch of elegance and elegance. He looked over with a smile. Lu Ye's face immediately darkened. He said unhappily, I didn't expect to see you again. The guy in front of him was shockingly vitality sex Lu Shan. Did the name Lu Ye spread from him? When Tuan Shipao was in the Cloudy River battlefield, he had also thought about whether or not Ji Yun Di Ba Gang was in the 11th edition of Jin Hai. He had already made up his mind that if he really met him, he would definitely teach him a good lesson. It was because of this guy that his name had changed. Even the name on the battlefield imprint showed that it was Lu Ye. It was just that Lu Ye had not seen him in the Cloudy River battlefield. He did not expect to meet him here. He did not expect Ji Wenwen to be so successful in just a few years. Lu Shan grinned. Sensing the hostility in Lu Ye's eyes, he was surprised. You want to beat me up? No such thing. Wei Shi denied decisively. He probably could not beat Wang Yafei. Lu Shan was now in the true lake stage. Yes, although he was in the Cloudy River stage, if they really fought, he might not be a match for him. Coming from the Vitality sect, his foundation was naturally strong. Compared to the average true lake stage, Lu Shan was much stronger. That's good. Lu Shan patted Lu Ye's shoulder enthusiastically. Come, we were just waiting for you. Let's register first. As he walked forward with Jie Zero Shi, he whispered, Did you offend someone? I just came here, who could I have offended? What happened? Lu Shan shook his head. I don't know. We just received the order to register you. Things are a little unusual. Anyway, you have to be careful. Lu Yi nodded. He did not notice anything before, but after hearing Lu Shan's words, he did feel that something was wrong. He was supposed to be imprisoned for 10 days, but he was released on the 5th day. The recruitment division actually received another order to register him. It was as if someone could not wait to do something to him. Under Lu Shan's lead, the two came to a table. Behind the table, a cultivator was waiting. He nodded slightly at Lu Shan, then looked at Lu Yi. Name Master. Sect Cultivation. Do not hide. Do not lie. If there is anything wrong, the law division will look for you. Yes. Lu Yi naturally would not lie. Lu Shan was here, and there was no need to lie about such basic information. Lu Yi, Jade Blood Sect, Cloud River 9th Stage. The cultivator immediately channeled his spirit energy and recorded Lu Ye's basic information on a jade slip in his hand. After that, he took out a disc-like thing and said, Raise your hand and place the location with the battlefield imprint here. Lu Yi looked at the disc, a little puzzled. Lu Shan kindly explained, Register here. People from the State Guard. Phoenix entering the State Guard is the second thing to do. Rank. This is the second thing the recruitment division has to do. The rank of a soldier was determined by two factors. One was cultivation, and the other was the amount of military merits one had obtained in the past. The higher one's cultivation, the more military merits one had obtained in the past, and the higher one's military rank would naturally be. This was related to the amount of merit one would obtain in the future. In Hijou's love realm, you will probably be able to stay as a sergeant. Of course, if you have accumulated enough military merit, you will be able to stay there for a while. If you have enough merit, you can be a sergeant. He patted Lu Yi on the shoulder. Rank is very important. Not only is it related to your monthly salary, but it is also related to your status in the State Guard. However, this thing can be slowly improved, so don't worry too much about the initial rank. Lu Yi nodded. Understood. As he spoke, he placed his left hand with the battlefield imprint on the disc. The cultivator holding the disc poured his spirit energy into it, and the disc immediately bloomed with light and poured into Lu Ye's battlefield imprint. The battle merit disc has the effect of checking a cultivator's past merit. Even if you use it, it will be recorded. Different grades will give out different light. White is the worst, which means you haven't gained much merit before. If your cultivation is not enough, you can only be a soldier and listen to others. As Lu Shan spoke, the luster on the battle merit plate turned milky white, but the milky white quickly changed into a green color. Cyan means your past merit is around 10,000 points. Coupled with your Cloud River 9th stage cultivation, you can be a sergeant. Before he finished speaking, the cyan had turned blue. Blue means less than 50,000 points. Congratulations, Lu Yi, you can be a sergeant. If it's green, why did it turn yellow? Lu Shan's expression gradually became shocked, because as he explained, the color on the war merit plate was rapidly changing. After green, it was yellow, until the yellow became extremely rich, and was about to change to the next color, only then did it stop. In the recruitment division, the cultivators were all shocked. Pairs of eyes stared at the dazzling yellow without blinking. Such a bright yellow only amounted to a few 100,000 points. It was a movement caused by nearly 1,000,000 points of merit. Even true Lake Realm cultivators like them had never obtained such a thing. So many merit points. How could a Cloud River 9th stage cultivator do it? That was why their first reaction was, "Is there something wrong with the battle merit disc?" Lu Shan shook his head. The battle merit disc is linked to Heaven's secrets and battlefield imprints. How can there be a mistake? Since there was no mistake, it meant that Lu Ye's past merit was enormous. Several pairs of eyes looked at Lu Yi in unison, all of them shocked to the extreme. Lu Shan hesitated for a moment before saying, "Lu Yi, you have a lot of merit in the past?" "Yes, I have." "Do you remember the exact number?" Lu Yi shook his head. "I can't remember the exact number, but it's probably in the hundreds of thousands." Chapter 863. How many battle merits had Lu Yi obtained? He really couldn't remember, but the rough number was still clear. Of course, he hadn't come into contact with battle merits in the entire Spirit Stream battlefield. This thing would wait until he entered the Cloud River battlefield in the realm of beasts. It was the first time he came into contact with battle merits in the secret realm. However, in the realm of beasts, the battle merits he obtained, it wasn't too much, only about 30,000. The main reason was that too many people participated in the final battle, so the benefits were it was a profit. After that, the trip to Immortal Essence City obtained 300,000 battle merit. All of them were exchanged for soul water. The trip to the Dragon's Soaring Realm obtained 280,000 battle merit. The most recent trip to the Wushuang continent obtained 180,000 battle merit. Many. Adding all of these together, he had so far. The number of battle merits he had obtained was about 800,000. For any Cloud River Realm cultivator, or even true Lake Realm cultivator, this was a number that could not be ignored. Take Lu Shan for example, the number of battle merits he had obtained so far compared to Lu Yi. His battle merits were only about 300,000 points. Lu Yi, the difference was more than 2 times. The amount of battle merits he obtained was directly determined. It determined the rank and place of a cultivator in the military state guard. Rank. With Lu Ye's current capital, his initial rank was impressive. He had already reached the level of a guard. This was unprecedented. One had to know that Lu Shan was only a guard now. Guard was a higher rank placed on the front line. If there was an emergency, Lu Yi would have the authority to use his military rank. Then, he has to obey orders, even if he has a cultivation base. Even if he was higher than Lu Yi, he couldn't resist. Of course, that was what he said, but if there was no difference between the two, with a direct command relationship, he could also disobey orders. Submit it to the Law Division for arbitration. The Recruitment Division had the ability to determine the initial rank of a new guard, but since the establishment of the Recruitment Division, there had probably not been one. Which new guard had such a high initial rank? Under normal circumstances, a Cloud River 9 like Lu Yi, when he entered the military state guard, he was at the level of sergeant and sergeant. No, a very small number of them might be able to reach the level of a guard. Once. How could there be someone like Lu Yi who was a guard? Moreover, looking at the intensity of the color on the battle merit plate, it was still showing signs of transforming to the next level. Above the guard, That was the level of a captain. Only some senior true Lake Realm cultivators could reach that level. It could be said that the matter in front of them, it was within the scope of what he could handle. Lushan rubbed his temples and felt a headache coming on. Who would have thought that such a bizarre thing would happen in right under his nose? After thinking for a moment, he said, "Luya, please wait for a moment." As he spoke, he raised his hand and tapped on his own battlefield seal. He noted it down and sent out a message. Yes, but not since the establishment of the recruitment department. Which new guard would have such a high starting rank? Under normal circumstances, Yunhejio, such as Lu Yi, would not be able to defeat Yunhejio. Those who entered the soldier state guard were all at the level of sergeant or sergeant. No, a very small number of them may reach the level of the fruit guardian. This time, how could there be a guard like Lu Yi? Looking at the intensity of the color on the plate, it was still the same. There were signs of the transformation to the next level. Above Wei Wei was the rank of commandant. Only a few experienced true lake stage cultivators could reach such a level. It could be said that the matter in front of them was beyond them. It was within the scope of what he could handle. Lushan rubbed his temples and felt a headache coming on. Who would have thought that such a bizarre thing would happen in right under his nose? After thinking for a moment, he said, "Luya, please wait for a moment." As he spoke, he raised his hand and tapped on his battlefield seal. He noted it down and sent out a message. Obviously, he was going to call someone over. While waiting, Lushan asked curiously, "What did you do? What did you do? How did you get such a huge amount of battle merits?" Logically speaking, the experience of a cultivator at the Cloud River realm, it was unlikely to have such a huge harvest in a secret realm. "Yes. Just a little opportunity," Lu Yi replied casually. The few secret realms that he had experienced were not something that others could use. To be able to have such a harvest was both an opportunity and a gamble. Not to mention the Wushuang continent and the Golden Corpse. The king's last battle was in the dragon soaring realm. It was a gift from the broken origin of the dragon soaring realm. His life force dissipated. As for the immortal Essence City, that was something that no one could touch. "Senior brother Lushan, can you tell me about the difference in military ranks?" Lu Yi asked. When he was in the Blue Blood sect, Shui Yuan had told him a lot about the Immortal Essence Guard. She didn't talk much about military rank. She probably felt that Lu Yi would soon be able to figure it out. Therefore, Lu Yi didn't know that they could actually check the battle merits that a cultivator had obtained in the past. Confirm the initial military rank. Naturally, there was nothing that couldn't be said. Lushan said, "Since the state guards act as a military, there are different ranks. The military ranks are divided into 9 grades from bottom to top. Soldier, Sergeant, Sergeant, Fruit Guard, Wei Wei, Duwei, Guard, Army, Camp Pillar, Commander Flag. The 12 great generals of the military prefecture guard front line. There were 12 commander flags. These 12 commander flags were all at the peak of the since they were the commander flags, they were also the 12 commander flags. The Lord of the Pass is stationed outside all year round, protecting the safety of our military prefecture. It's dangerous. The initial military rank of the new guards of the military prefecture is determined. Firstly, it depends on how many battle merits you have obtained in the past. Secondly, it depends on your cultivation level. It mainly depends on your battle merit. The battle merit plate shows that the color corresponds to the military rank, and you will get what you want. Military rank. Of course, there were also times when someone interfered. If a true Lake Realm cultivator newly joined the military prefecture guard, even if he didn't obtain any battle merits before, then at least he would be a squad leader. Because of his cultivation level, there was always a "you can't let a true Lake Realm cultivator start as a soldier. It's outrageous." Therefore, Lu Yi didn't know that they could actually check. It was even more important to find out the battle merits a cultivator had obtained in the past. Confirm the initial military rank. Naturally, there was nothing that couldn't be said. Lu Shan said, "Since the state guards act as a military, there are different ranks. The military ranks are divided into 9 grades from bottom to top. Soldier, sergeant, sergeant, fruit guard, wei, duwei, guard, army, camp pillar, commander flag. The 12 great generals of the military prefecture guard front line. There were 12 commander flags. These 12 commander flags were all at the peak of the since they were the commander flags, they were also the 12 commander flags. The Lord of the Pass is stationed outside all year round, protecting the safety of our military prefecture. It's dangerous." The initial military rank of the new guards of the military prefecture is determined. First, it depends on how many battle merits you have obtained in the past. Second, it depends on your cultivation level. Low, it mainly depends on your battle merit. The battle merit plate shows it. The color corresponds to the military rank, and you will get what you want. Military rank. Of course, there were also times when someone interfered. If a true Lake Realm cultivator newly joined the military prefecture guards, even if he didn't obtain any battle merits before, he would at least be Aten squad leader. Because of his cultivation level, he would always be a you can't let a true Lake Realm cultivator start as a soldier. It's outrageous. Lu Yi suddenly understood. In other words, battle merits determine his military rank is unchangeable, but if his cultivation level is high enough, he can also be promoted at his discretion. That's the reason. Lu Shan had a look of expression on his face. This kind of promotion based on his discretion is not under the control of my recruitment department. That's the official department's matter. Lu Yi nodded. What's the situation on my side? Lu Shan spread out his hands. I haven't met you before. The first soldier's rank is too high, so we can't deal with it. Alright, I've already sent a message to Elder Shur. He'll probably take you to the official department. Only there can you promote the fruit guard. Above the military rank. Remember, you have to promote soldiers in the future. If you want a rank, you have to go to the official department. I understand. Lu Yi nodded. While they were talking, a short figure with a long nose. The red-nosed old man suddenly flashed over and scanned him up and down. Lu Yi glanced at him. Is this the kid? Lu Shan and the others hurriedly bowed. Elder Shur. Lu Yi also bowed. Lu Yi of the Jade Blood Sect greets Senior. Although the red-nosed old man was short, it was possible that since Lu Shan and the others were so respectful, he must be at the Divine Sea Realm. He hesitated. Jade Blood Sect. Elder Shur rubbed his chin. He chuckled. It's really strange that there are always some monsters. It's also strange. Follow me. After saying that, he turned around and left. Lu Yi hurriedly followed. After leaving the recruitment department's main hall, Elder Shur immediately soared into the sky. Not only that, he also activated his spirit energy to wrap Lu Yi up. In an instant, Lu Yi experienced what it meant to be truly as fast as lightning. Even if he activated the dual spirit tattoos of flying wings and wind travel, he would still not be able to match this old man's speed even if he used all his strength. He was flying at will. In just about 10 breaths of time, Elder Shur had taken him away. He was brought to a hall. This place was the official department of Haotian City, Lu Shan's side. This was the place to promote soldiers. The official department was undoubtedly more lively than the recruitment department. Many people came and went in the entire hall. There were enough the qualified soldiers of the Army Province Guards were here to raise their ranks. The hall was spacious, and the layout inside was simple. There were cultivators sitting upright behind the tables, and on each table, there was a battle merit plate placed on each table. The soldiers who had come here to promote their ranks, the state guards, stepped forward in order, handed over their nameplates, and began the battle. The position of the field imprint was placed on the battle merit plate by the official department. The person in charge looked at the color, determined the rank, and changed the nameplate. Appearance. The efficiency was still very high. Elder Shur obviously had no intention of waiting in line. After entering the hall, he walked straight to a small room at the side. He pushed open the door and entered. There was a woman waiting inside. Her gaze swept across the room. "Is that him?" Elder Sure nodded. "That's the kid. Look at him." After saying that, he sat to the side and flipped his hand. He took out an opium pipe and puffed out smoke. The woman glared at him before saying to Lu Yi, "Come and see your battle merits." Lu Yi stepped forward and placed his hand on a battle merit plate. On it, the same scene as in the recruitment department appeared. The color on the battle merit plate continued to change, from white to white. It turned green, then blue, then green, and finally stopped at a rich color. Amidst the yellow color, even though he already knew that this would be the outcome, Elder Sure, he couldn't help but sigh. Killing people at such a young age. Ruma, young people nowadays are amazing. The woman said, "There's no problem with the battle merits, but their cultivation is low." There had never been a Cloud River Realm cultivator who could make the battle merits change like this on the plate. "What does the official department mean?" Elder Sure asked. He said, "Act according to the rules. What else can we do?" The man smiled. Elder Sure nodded slightly. As she spoke, the woman had already taken out a nameplate. His thoughts and spiritual energy surged together, and he did it in this way. Then, she threw it to Lu Yi. "This is the price of the guard token, and it's also your symbol of status. Keep it close to your body and don't miss it. Lose it." "Yes." Lu Yi took it. Everyone on the military state guard side had a guard token. Although the battlefield imprint had the ability to record all kinds of information about cultivators, it could, but if a cultivator died in battle, the battlefield imprint would also dissipate. With the guard token, it was different. Sometimes, it could confirm the identity of the dead through the guard token. At the same time, the guard token also had the ability to transmit information. The guard token could mobilize manpower, but the battlefield imprint did not have this convenience. Yes, the communication between the battlefield imprints required two cultivators. They could only add imprints to each other. "Why are you still standing here foolishly?" Seeing that Lu Yi didn't leave, he couldn't help but ask. "Where should I go?" "Go wherever you want, as long as you don't leave Haotian City." Elder Sure waved his hand. "When the time comes, you'll know. Someone will inform you where to go." Lu Yi understood and hurriedly left. Chapter 860. The moment of the year after he left, the woman sighed and said, "Everyone, all these years, they're still staring at the blue blood sect. It's a little too much." She had obviously heard something. Elder Sure said, "What can we do about that? That old thing doesn't like worldly affairs and doesn't come to Haotian City to oversee it. Serves his disciples right to be bullied." "I'm really going to Heaven's Gate." The woman was hidden. She was a little worried. "What are you worrying about?" Elder Sure smacked his lips. He took a puff of his pipe. "Can Qian Wudong speak up and bring this kid out? Come, haven't you thought about why?" The woman's expression changed. "You mean, the relationship between Qian Wudong and Fan Xiangyi is something you don't know. It's not like you don't know that Fan Xiangyi and the little girl from the Blue Blood sect are close. The girl was also very close to him. The disciples of the Jade Blood sect had arrived. How could they not take care of him? Previously, they had put this throwing this kid into the prison was their trick. Most likely, it was their plan. They wanted to wait for those people to leave before arranging for that kid to go. Unfortunately, he was still targeted. Although they didn't know what they were going to do, that crazy woman wanted to bring him to Heaven's Gate. I'm afraid it won't be that easy. So that's how it is. The woman suddenly understood. You see far ahead. Chapter 864. In the main hall, more than half of the division heads of the 12 passes of the military province had left. The new guards had been divided up, and they had to lead these new guards back to their own passes. There was no point in continuing to stay here. Only 5 or 6 people stayed because of various considerations. The old woman surnamed Yu naturally didn't leave. Her target was Lu Yi, and before the dust settled, she wouldn't leave so easily. This time, she had to bring Lu Yi to Heaven's Gate no matter what. Therefore, even though there were a few people trying to persuade her, it was useless. Instead, it made her irritable and angry. Seeing that she was really angry, those people couldn't say anything more. They all shook their heads and sighed. They also knew that if the boy from the Jade Blood sect was really taken to Heaven's Gate, there was a high probability that he wouldn't have a good ending. Although the military province guards strictly forbade internal strife, from the standpoint of a superior, there were too many open and above-board methods that could be used. If a Divine Ocean Realm cultivator really wanted to deal with a Cloud River Realm cultivator, the latter wouldn't have any ability to resist. It hasn't been sent yet. The old woman slapped the armrest of the chair angrily, impatient. At this moment, a person hurriedly ran in and reported respectfully, "Jade Blood Sect's disciple, Lu Yi, has been registered." As he spoke, he presented a jade slip with both hands. A light flashed in the old woman's eyes. She reached out and grabbed. As she activated her spiritual power, the jade slip was sucked over. The jade slip naturally contained Lu Yi's information. If it fell into the old woman's hands, it meant that Lu Yi had entered Heaven's Gate. Just when the jade slip was only a foot away from the old woman, the expressions of the Divine Ocean Realm cultivators in the main hall changed. Suddenly, a layer of ripples appeared in the void, followed by a sharp flash. The old woman screamed and retracted her hand as if she had been electrocuted. A ghostly figure suddenly appeared, and a fair, jade-like hand caught the jade slip that was flying towards the old woman. With such a sudden change, the Divine Ocean Realm cultivators thought that they had been sneak attacked. They all activated their spiritual power. In an instant, a gust of wind swept through the main hall, and pressure filled the air. The cultivator who sent the jade slip was also at the True Lake realm. He wasn't weak, but at this moment, he exclaimed and hurriedly retreated. He only felt relieved when he left the main hall. Within the short period of Kunlun chaos, the Divine Inquisitors were finally able to see the appearance of the person who had suddenly appeared. It was a woman. She looked extremely charming and was born with a heavenly fragrance. There was a mole under the corner of her eye that added a touch of charm. However, her aura was extremely cold, like a stubborn ice that would not melt for 10,000 years. When he appeared, even the Divine Sea Realm cultivators couldn't help but shudder, as if their souls were touched by the cold air. At this moment, the woman was holding a short blade in her right hand and the jade slip containing Lu Yi's information on her left hand as she stared at the old woman. Earlier, it was precisely her who suddenly made a move and intercepted the jade slip halfway. Before she showed up, none of the 5 or 6 Spirit Sea Realm warriors present had noticed her existence. Thought Moon immortal. The old woman screamed as if she had seen a ghost. Her turbid eyes trembled, clearly not expecting to see this woman at a time like this. But on second thought, she immediately understood why Thought Moon Immortal had appeared here. She'd clearly come for that kid from the Jade Blood sect. So that's why previously, when Gan Wudong spoke to bring that kid from the Jade Blood sect out of the prison, the old woman felt that it was strange. Gan Wudong was too easy to talk to this time. One had to know that Gan Wudong had been in charge of the Wei LV for so many years, and his words had always been like an arrow. So he was waiting for her here. What surprised her even more was that when did Thought Moon Immortal hide here? None of them had noticed. If she hadn't taken the initiative to expose herself, she probably still wouldn't have been noticed. Thought Moon Immortal's attainment in the Tao of Concealment was clearly high. The Divine Sea Realm cultivators were all experienced people. The moment they saw the Thought Moon Immortal, they understood the cause and effect. The reason why they stayed behind was to persuade the old woman. In their hearts, they were more or less biased towards the Blue Blood sect. However, their previous efforts were all useless. At this moment, Thought Moon Immortal had appeared and snatched the jade slip, which meant that what they were worried about wouldn't happen again. This made them sigh in relief. If there was anyone in the War Province Guards who didn't put the old woman in their eyes and didn't care whether or not they would offend her, then Thought Moon Immortal was definitely one of them. Not to mention the old woman, even the 12 flags had to give Thought Moon Immortal some face. In terms of strength, Thought Moon Immortal was already qualified to be the Lord of a Pass. However, because she didn't have much ability to command, she couldn't become the Lord of a Pass. Across all of the military province guards, the Thought Moon Immortal was an extremely special person. Her name had even spread to the other 8 provinces, and everyone knew about her. After relaxing, she couldn't help but feel anxious again. The situation became clear, but it also became dangerous. One side wanted to take that kid from the Jade Blood sect to Heaven's Gate, while the other side wanted to stop them. They had even snatched the Jade Slip. Were they going to fight? Didi Pavilion. This was vast Sky City. If 2 Divine Sea Realm cultivators fought here, what kind of scandal would that be? When the time came, the law department would definitely take action. Perhaps both of them would be locked up in the prison. A chubby old man smiled and said, "Junior Sister Nyen, why are you here?" Thought Moon Immortal said calmly, "I can't come." Her words were like ice. The chubby old man hurriedly said, "Of course not. It's just that I haven't seen you for many years. Junior Sister, you're still as elegant as ever. However, I'm old. Time doesn't spare anyone. You've always been this old." The chubby old man felt a stab in his heart. Even though he knew that Thought Moon Immortal had such a temper, he still felt very uncomfortable and didn't want to say anything. The old woman stared at Thought Moon Immortal, and then looked at the jade slip in her hand. "Thought Moon Immortal, give it to me. Whatever conditions you have, just say them. You want it." Thought Moon Immortal stared at her. "You can try and see if you can snatch it away." Thought Moon Immortal. The old woman gritted her teeth, as if she was about to fly into a rage. However, she still suppressed it. The main reason was that she was weaker than the other party. Even if she got angry, it would be useless. For so many years, you've never wanted a single soldier. Why did you have to interfere today? On a whim, I suddenly want it. That's easy. I'll give you some men. You can have as many as you want. Even if it's 100 or 1,000 people. I like those that I snatch. The old woman was furious. Do you have to do this? Thought Moon Immortal's lips curled up slightly. Yes. So what? The old woman glared at her, her eyes filled with rage and venom. After a long while, she gritted her teeth. Very well. With that, she stood up and was about to head out. However, at this moment, Thought Moon Immortal's body moved. Wrapped in a fragrant wind, she pounced towards the old woman. No one would have thought that she would really dare to strike at the old woman here. Even the old woman herself had not expected this. After all, she had been lying in ambush here the entire time. If she really wanted to harm the old woman, she could have done so long ago. Yet, she had waited until this moment to strike. Clearly, she did not want to sneak up on the old woman, and wanted to attack her openly. The old woman's shriek rang out once more. The clash between the 2 spirit sea state beings caused the sturdy main hall to collapse. A few figures flew out of the dust and stood in the air. Looking over, everyone's eyes narrowed. In the distance, the old woman's figure was wrapped in a layer of bloody light. She had already escaped. Thought Moon Immortal stood not far away, playing with her dagger in her hand. She looked coldly at the old woman's back and said, 30 years ago, I told you that I would beat you every time I saw you. Did you think I was joking?" When the fat old man and the other spirit sea state beings heard this, they could not help but shudder. Woman. Sure enough, they all held grudges. The old woman held grudges and insisted on bringing that kid from the Jade Blood sect to Heaven's Gate. Thought Moon Immortal held grudges and dared to strike in Grand Heaven City. Although she did not kill the old woman, she still injured her. The huge commotion here naturally alarmed a group of Law Department cultivators patrolling nearby. They were about to go forward to investigate, but they received some orders and turned around midway and left quickly. The law department was very strict. Since they did not see her and no one reported it, they just treated it as if nothing had happened. When the fat old man and the others saw this scene from afar, they were all speechless. When they looked back, there was no trace of Thought Moon Immortal. She had disappeared without anyone noticing. The fat old man sighed. One person suppressing one person. With Junior Sister Nyen's ability, it's no wonder that the myriad Demon Ridge did not dare to act rashly. The Ghost Cultivator sect had always been a headache to deal with, especially the powerful ones. When they killed people, no one would be able to detect it. It could be said that sometimes, the existence of a powerful ghost cultivator was a deterrent to the enemy. This was also the reason why Thought Moon Immortal was able to suppress one person. Although there were some twists and turns, in the end, they did not develop in the direction they were worried about. The name list of the Jade Blood sect disciple fell into the hands of Thought Moon Immortal, and they did not need to worry about anything. When the old woman left, they also left quickly. At this time, outside the official department, Lu Yi was checking his battlefield imprint. The other information in the battlefield imprint did not change much. His location had changed to Grand Heaven City. Only under the information of his battle achievements, there was an additional information. Rank Wei Wei. Among the 9 ranks, Wei Wei was already at the 5th rank. Moreover, with Lu Ye's current battle achievements, he was not far from the 6th rank. However, for something like a military rank, it was not difficult to increase it in the early stages, but it became more difficult to increase it in the later stages. Lu Yi was very satisfied. No matter what, with this military rank, he could obtain a certain amount of battle achievements every month as the Moon Body. This was the most attractive thing about the military state guard. After checking the battlefield imprint, Lu Yi looked at his Wei Ling. The Wei Ling was not complicated to refine, but because it was supported by Heaven's secrets, ordinary cultivators could not copy it. Moreover, no cultivator dared to copy this thing. Once discovered, they would be hunted down by the entire military state guard. There would be no place for them in the military state. The Wei Ling was a black plate. It was unknown what material it was made of, and there were no special pictures or words. Lu Yi poured his spirit power into it, and the Wei Ling immediately emitted a bright yellow light. He clicked to download the best book-chasing app. Many readers used this to read books aloud. Chapter 865. The bright yellow light corresponded to the Wei Guard's military rank. In this way, when the military province guards of different military ranks met in the wild, as long as they showed their respective guard badges, they could quickly determine the other's military rank. In many emergency situations, it was beneficial to quickly gather and move together. This thing had to be kept close to his body and could not be placed in a storage pouch, because many of the military province guards' orders were given through the guard badges. If it was placed in a storage pouch, they would not be able to communicate. This was the same principle as the sound transmission stone. Just as Lu Yi was about to stuff the guard badge into his bosom, he suddenly sensed something and hurriedly immersed his mind. There was an additional message in the guard badge. The message was very simple. He was ordered to report to the Ash Flame Mountain Pass within 3 days. Lu Yi could not help but frown. This order was somewhat strange, because a new guard like him would usually report to one of the 12 passes first, and then be assigned to a pass under the jurisdiction of the 12 passes. This order for him to directly bypass the pass and report to the Ash Flame Mountain Pass was naturally a bit unusual. However, he did not think too much about it. Now that he had entered the military province guards, there was only one thing he had to do, and that was to follow orders. The order told him to report to the Ash Flame Mountain Pass within 3 days, so he had to arrive within 3 days. If he exceeded the time limit, he would be punished according to military law. Taking out the 10 points map, he found the location of the Ash Flame Mountain Pass. It was not far from vast Sky City, and with his speed, He would be able to arrive in less than a day. Therefore, the 3-day time limit was very ample, and he was not in a hurry to set off. At this time, the sky was already dark, so it would not be too late to rest for a night before setting off. There were many empty rooms in vast Sky City for the convenience of cultivators coming and going to rest. Moreover, these rooms did not charge any fees. As long as the military province guards cultivators used their guard badges, they could choose any room they wanted. Lu Yi found an empty room nearby and used the guard badge to open the room's restriction, then slowly entered. The room was not big, and the facilities were also extremely simple, enough for one person to rest. After a night of rest, Lu Yi was full of energy. At dawn, he had already set off. Following the 10 points map's guidance, he headed straight for the Ash Flame Mountain Pass. Along the way, he did not encounter any trouble, but he did encounter a few patrolling cultivators. Lu Yi showed the guard badge, so he was able to pass through without obstruction. When night was about to fall, a continuous mountain range in the distance appeared in their field of vision. The surrounding environment seemed to be somewhat hot and dry. This place was the Ashen Flame Mountain. It stretched for thousands of miles, and the Ashen Flame Mountain Pass was located within it. Following the map's guidance, Lu Yi quickly found the exact location of the Ash Flame Mountain Pass. Looking from afar, the huge port looked like a city in the mountains. The city walls were tall, and there were many defensive structures on the city walls. Although the defensive strength was not as strong as that of vast Sky City, if the Myriad Demon's Ridge wanted to attack from here, these defensive structures would be of great use. But what puzzled Lu Yi was that he didn't see anyone on the city wall, and there didn't seem to be any trace of a spirit array covering this city-like entrance. Something was not right. Lu Ye's heart sank. He subconsciously felt that the Myriad Devil Ridge had quietly occupied this place. Otherwise, how could there not be a single person in such a large pass? He hurriedly activated his spiritual power to conceal himself, and put the amber into his spirit beast pouch. Then, he quietly moved forward. When he got closer, what he saw made him even more puzzled. There were no traces of battle in the pass, nor was there any smell of blood. Moreover, the building seemed to have been in disrepair for a long time. He entered the city and investigated the buildings one by one. He found that many places were covered in dust. This situation undoubtedly showed that no one had lived here for a long time. What was going on in the Ash Flame Mountain Pass? Lu Yi was confused. He couldn't be the only living person here, right? Or were other soldiers and state guards on their way here? Just as he was feeling suspicious, he suddenly had a feeling. When he turned his head to look, he saw a figure standing silently on the roof of a nearby house. The moon hung high in the sky. The cold moonlight shone, making this person look like an immortal. Lu Ye's eyes narrowed. It was because the other party's beautiful eyes were staring straight at him. Even if he maintained his concealment state, it was useless. Fine sweat seeped from his forehead. He tightened his grip on the Pan Mountain saber, but he didn't dare to move. He couldn't tell how strong this person was. To be able to spy on his whereabouts, it was very likely that this person was a divine sea realm cultivator. As for whether this person was friend or foe, it was hard to tell. "What are you sneaking around for?" The woman suddenly spoke. Her voice was as cold as ice, like the cold moonlight shining down from the sky. It shouldn't be an enemy. Lu Yi thought to himself. If it really was an enemy, she could just attack him. If it wasn't an enemy, then it had to be the state guard stationed here. With that thought, Lu Yi removed his concealment state and cupped his fists. New guard of the state of war, Lu Yi, reporting for duty. The woman replied casually. With a wave of her hand, the guard token that Lu Yi had kept close to him flew out. It flew out and was caught by her. He didn't know what she did, but a flash of light flashed on the guard token. Then, it was thrown back. "That's enough," she said softly. "From now on, you're a member of the Ash Flame Mountain Pass." Lu Yi hurriedly checked his battlefield imprint. As expected, the information in it had changed. Originally, there was only one line in his identity column, disciple of the Blue Blood sect. Now there was one more line. Great Moon Pass, Ash Flame Mountain Pass Guard. Ash Flame Mountain Pass belonged to the Great Moon Pass. It was one of the dozens of passes under the jurisdiction of the Great Moon Pass. Guard was Lu Ye's military rank. The two words in front of it should be a military position. As for what this military position was responsible for, Lu Ye could roughly understand it just by looking at the words. The other party could change his battlefield imprint as soon as she attacked. The information had changed. From this, it could be seen that this woman was one of his own. Moreover, she was the person in charge of the Ash Flame Mountain Pass. May I ask, Senior? Among the state guards, there are no seniors or juniors. There are only superiors and subordinate. You can call me Lord or Pass Lord. Camp Post, it's all up to you. Just don't call me Senior. Pass Lord was undoubtedly her identity. As for Camp Post, it was her military rank. Only then did Lu Yi realize that the woman in front of him was actually the leader of the Ash Flame Mountain Pass. I know you're confused. There's no need to look. There's only the two of us here. Lu Yi was stunned to the extreme. He must have a special understanding of the front line of the military state guards and the second are Li Yang flying out. However, the luck of Shi and Jiao Milan was already a bit too good. There were many small ASL under the military states T-1, and there were many in the pass. A huge number of cultivators were guarding it. What was this Ash Flame Mountain Pass worth Gong for himself and Iju? Moreover, he was still new here. In other words, before him, wasn't this side, was she the only one here? Find a place to stay. There aren't many battles in Yiguang. You can do whatever you want. If there's anything, you can contact me through Wei Ling. However, it's best not to disturb me. After saying that, she floated into the distance. Lu Yi hurriedly shouted, May I ask how I should address you, Lord? From afar a cold voice sounded, Thought Moon Immortal. Lu Yi silently remembered it. Even after the Thought Moon Immortal had left, Lu Yi still couldn't come back to his senses. The current situation was different from what he had imagined. He had originally thought that after entering the military prefecture guards and arriving at the front lines, he would have to deal with cultivators from various sects, and then fight against the cultivators of the myriad Devil Ridge. But now, other than him, there was only one Thought Moon Immortal left in this Ash Flame Mountain. The other military prefecture guards were nowhere to be seen. Was there such a strange Guanli in the military prefecture guards? Since he had just arrived, there was no point in thinking too much. He had to find a place to stay first. Fortunately, the city here wasn't small and there were many houses. Although many of them had been in disrepair for a long time, there were still some that could be lived in. Lu Yi casually found a room that looked pretty good. After tidying it up, he came and went. The night passed without a word. The next day, Lu Yi flew to a nearby spirit mountain and looked around, feeling at a loss. Although this place was the front line of the confrontation between the two camps, for some reason, it gave him a very comfortable feeling. All this time, he had been rushing about in the Spirit Stream battlefield, fighting with the myriad Devil Ridge in a battle of wits and courage. When he arrived at the Cloud River battlefield, it was the same. It could be said that he had always felt a sense of urgency. Now that he had suddenly come to such a comfortable environment, he actually didn't know what to do. After thinking for a while, Lu Yi decided to first find a place to stay. Although people could live in the city, in such a big city, there had been no people for many years. Now that he was the only one living in it, it felt weird. He might as well build his own bamboo building in the nearby Spirit Peak. It wasn't the first time Lu Yi had done something like building a bamboo house, so he was familiar with it. In less than half a day, a 3-story bamboo house had already been built. He also set up many arrays around the bamboo house for defensive purposes. Only then was it considered complete. With a place to stay, it was time to find something to do. Since he had entered the military prefecture guards, he naturally had to work for the military prefecture. Lu Yi tried to contact the Thought Moon Immortal to see if she had any missions. In the end, the other party didn't respond. He didn't know where she went. But speaking of which, for a Divine Sea Realm cultivator like her, if she really wanted to hide her whereabouts, Lu Yi wouldn't be able to find her. Thinking of the other party's attitude, Lu Yi understood that this branch master probably didn't want to bother with him. Since that was the case, he could only cultivate. He wasn't far from the true lake realm, and he had enough golden spirit sticks in his hand. If he hadn't received the transfer order from the city, he should have opened the lake by now. In the end, a cultivator's foundation was their cultivation. When one's cultivation was high, it would be convenient for them to do anything. On the third floor of the bamboo house, Lu Yi sat cross-legged with Yi beside him. Small spirit-gathering funnels formed one after another, and Lu Yi pasted a golden spirit stick in his hand. Rich spirit energy immediately surged out. Lu Yi swallowed it, and the cultivator who had just broken through to the Cloud River Realm 9th Order not long ago. His breakthrough was strengthened. Chapter 866. Lu Yi and Yi were both focused on cultivation, and even Hu Po was lying on the side, absorbing the pure spiritual power. 2 people and 1 tiger. No one noticed that a ghostly figure had appeared. At some point, a demon-like figure had floated inside, and was quietly standing 3 meters in front of them. The many warning and protective arrays that Lu Yi had carefully set up seemed to have completely lost their effectiveness. Looking at the current blue flame mountain, only Thought Moon Immortal could sneak in like this without anyone noticing. At this moment, she was sizing up Lu Yi with rapt attention, clearly feeling the terrifying efficiency of Lu Ye's cultivation. With her eyesight, how could she not see the strangeness of Lu Ye's body? Although it was the first time she had seen it, she roughly understood what was going on after a little thought. She was greatly surprised because even with her knowledge and experience, she had never thought that there would be someone in this world who could cultivate like this. Recalling the information she had obtained about Lu Ye's growth, Thought Moon Immortal finally understood why his growth was so fast. This kind of cultivation efficiency was extremely terrifying. The normal breathing of cultivators could not be compared to it at all. This already had nothing to do with cultivation aptitude. From the looks of it, this Cloud River Tearbrat in front of her was already so powerful when his cultivation was very low, and it had continued until today. How daring and presumptuous! How earth-shattering was his talent in the Tao of spirit patterns to have such a strange idea and put it into action. Spirit Ocean Tier cultivators were all people with calm minds, but when Thought Moon Immortal saw Lu Ye's unique cultivation method, she was still shocked. Then she looked at Yi sitting beside Lu Yi. She was even more shocked. The reason she had sneaked in to investigate was because she had sensed that there seemed to be an additional unfamiliar aura in the bamboo building. She had seen Lu Yi before, and Hu Po was at Lu Ye's side. She remembered the auras of the human and tiger clearly. Suddenly, there was an additional unfamiliar aura, and she couldn't help but be vigilant. As a result, when she came in to take a look, she found that besides a pet beast at Lu Ye's side, there was another extremely special existence, and this young girl's existence was actually hidden from her. After quietly watching for a moment, Thought Moon Immortal's figure disappeared, as if she had never been here, leaving no trace. 1 golden spirit stick after another was consumed. 7 days later, when the 7th spirit stick's effect was about to end, a loud buzzing sound came from Lu Ye's body. The sound was like thunder, but also like the surging of the Jianghu. The surging spiritual power in his body surged endlessly, causing waves of air to appear in all directions. The feeling of fullness that had developed since the day before was becoming more and more obvious, but under this feeling of fullness, not only did Lu Yi not feel any discomfort, he instead felt that every inch of his body was overflowing with spirit energy. Starting from the spirit stream stage, cultivators would open up many spiritual cavities. When the number of spiritual cavities in their body reached a certain number, they would be able to connect the heavens and form the cloud river stage. Once they reached the cloud river stage, the spiritual energy in their body would be like a great river, flowing endlessly. However, the river of spiritual power had its limit. The cultivation of the cloud river tier was to break through these limits and continuously expand the volume of this river of spiritual power. The river of the little Kachiao expands in volume until this river of spiritual power expands. Zhang stretched to every corner of his body. At this point, every corner of a cultivator's body would be overflowing with their own spiritual energy. There would no longer be any limitations. No matter how they pushed their spiritual energy, they would be able to quickly receive feedback, and their control over their spiritual energy would be far better than before. At this point, a cultivator's body would be filled with spiritual energy like a lake. This was the true lake stage. At this moment, Lu Yi already had 1 foot in the door of the true lake stage. He could basically be considered a true lake stage cultivator. However, the surging spiritual energy in his body was obviously a sign that his realm was unstable. If he let it go, it was possible that he would fall back to the Cloud River 9th Order. At that time, all his efforts over the past few days would be in vain. The cultivation of a true lake stage cultivator was different from the previous 2 stages. The previous 2 stages, whether it was the Spirit Stream stage or the Cloud River stage, were all about increasing the volume of one's spiritual energy, especially the Cloud River stage. However, at the True Lake stage, what needed to be increased was the quality of one's spiritual energy. The 9 revolutions True Lake corresponded to the 9 stages of True Lake. Only when Lu Yi truly condensed his spiritual energy would he be able to stand firm in the First Order True Lake stage. Right now, he was just a castle in the sky, and could collapse at any time. He had previously consulted Shui Yuan about the cultivation of the True Lake stage, so at this critical moment, he was clear about what he should do. If he wanted to condense his spiritual energy, he would need to rely on the secret art he bought from the Heaven Secret Treasure House when he was in the Spirit Stream stage. Ever since he had entered the Cloud River tier, the spiritual cavities in his body had formed a great cycle, forming a long river of spiritual power. Lu Yi had once thought that things like cultivation techniques were no longer of much use. However, after asking for guidance on the cultivation of the True Water Yuan Lake tier, he understood that his thinking was wrong. Secret arts were extremely important and would accompany a cultivator throughout their life. The better the secret art, the more helpful it would be for a cultivator to condense their spiritual energy. Lu Ye's great sun-colored glass secret art was naturally not bad. It was also the best secret art in the Heaven Secret Treasure House. When he bought it, there were other secret arts that were better than it. The great sun-colored glass secret art was more expensive, but it was the most suitable for him. He couldn't help but rejoice that he didn't save merit points in the past. The process of condensing spiritual energy wasn't difficult. As long as he circulated his spiritual energy according to the secret arts route, his spiritual energy would naturally undergo some miraculous changes and become more condensed. Simply put, it was compression. The original 2 portions of spiritual energy would be compressed into 1 portion through the circulation of the secret art. Although the volume would become smaller, the quality would increase. This was known as the first revolution. When all of one's spiritual energy reached the first revolution, one would be able to stabilize in the First Order True Lake stage. If one wanted to reach the Second Order True Lake stage, one would have to repeat the same process and continue to compress and condense the first revolution. It would be the same in the future. Therefore, the further a cultivator cultivated, the greater the need for spiritual energy. Originally, 2 portions of spiritual energy could bring a cultivator 2 portions of improvement, but at the True Lake stage, it would only bring a single portion of improvement. At the Second Order True Lake stage, it would only bring half a portion of improvement. The resources required for a true lake stage cultivator to cultivate would increase exponentially, which showed how great the demand was. Condensing one's spiritual energy wasn't difficult, but it was a little tedious. This was because the entire cultivation process was repeating the same thing. Moreover, when condensing spiritual energy, one had to ensure that one's spiritual energy was pure enough. The purer the spiritual energy, the easier it would be to condense it. If there were impurities or pill toxins, it would unknowingly increase the difficulty of condensing spiritual energy. Therefore, most cultivators would meditate and recuperate, trying their best to make their spiritual energy reach the purest state. Lu Yi had the innate skill tree to burn pill toxins, so he naturally didn't have to worry about these things. The spiritual energy in his body was in pain. Lu Yi guarded his mind and silently circulated his spiritual energy according to the great sun-colored glass secret arts route. Although his body was now filled with spiritual energy and flooded his spirit cavities, the spirit cavities opened by the spirit stream stage still existed. When Lu Yi constructed the small spirit gathering funnel, he also used these spirit cavities as the foundation. At this moment, his spiritual energy was surging, passing through the many spirit cavities. Under the pressure of being full, the surging spiritual energy seemed to undergo some miraculous changes. After a dozen breaths, Lu Ye's mind moved slightly. He could clearly feel that there was a different strand of spiritual energy in his body. That strand of spiritual energy was almost undetectable. In the lake formed by spiritual energy, it was like a piece of floating grass. However, this strand of spiritual energy was extremely special. Compared to other spiritual energy, it undoubtedly contained a much stronger energy. His body continued to emit sounds, but the feeling of being full did not disappear. This was because the golden spiritual stick was still working, and the small spirit gathering funnel was still devouring spiritual energy. From this, one could see the benefits of Lu Ye's unique cultivation method. At this time, most cultivators could only focus on one thing, either condensing their own spiritual energy or absorbing spiritual energy from the outside world to strengthen their body. They couldn't do two things at once, because no matter what they did, it would consume a lot of their mind. However, Lu Yi was able to do both, saving a lot of time. As time passed, more and more spiritual energy reached the first revolution in his body, until it could be clearly distinguished, and then completely replaced the original spiritual energy. When all the spiritual energy in his body was replaced with the condensed first revolution spiritual energy, Lu Yi suddenly opened his eyes. In an instant the entire world seemed to have changed. Lu Yi understood in his heart that it wasn't the world that had changed, but himself. The world was still the same, but he was no longer his original self. The changes brought about by the advancement of a great realm were earth-shattering. It was the same when advancing to the Cloud River realm, and it was the same when advancing to the True Lake realm. Lu Yi could clearly feel the terrifying power contained in his body. Compared to before his advancement, his current strength could be described as skyrocketing. If he was asked to deal with the Golden Corpse King of the Peerless Continent now, Lu Yi felt that he could finish the battle within 3 slashes. Moreover, he didn't know if it was an illusion, but after stabilizing his footing in the First Order True Lake realm, his physique seemed to have strengthened a little. "Lu Yi, you've reached the True Lake realm?" Yi asked when she saw him open his eyes. Previously, when Lu Yi advanced, he caused quite a commotion, but before Lu Yi stabilized his realm, she naturally didn't dare to disturb him. I've reached the True Lake realm." Lu Yi gently clenched his fists. After several years of hard work, he finally reached this realm. Although there was still a mountain like the Spirit Sea to climb, he had finally broken free from the shackles of the bottom. "Then Hu Po and I will have to work hard too." Ian nodded. In order not to be restrained by the Yi scholars, the cultivation of the professional version had never slacked off. Under normal circumstances, when Lu Yi was cultivating, they were also cultivating. Lu Yi had his own unique cultivation method, and so did the two of them. Lu Yi could usually swallow spirit pills to accumulate his foundation, and Hupo constantly swallowed monster cores to close the gap between them. With such efforts, they weren't too far away from Lu Yi. However, the advancement of a great realm still made Yi feel a sense of urgency. Then continue to cultivate? Lu Yi asked. The golden spirit lot in his hand hadn't been completely consumed. It was rare to have such a peaceful time, so naturally, he couldn't miss it. Ian nodded and immediately entered a state of cultivation. She clicked to download the best book-chasing app. Many readers used this to read books aloud. Chapter 867. After a few more days, when all the golden spirit sticks were used up, the bitter cultivation finally came to an end. Lu Yi silently checked his body. Compared to before, there was no change in his realm, but the spiritual energy in his body was undoubtedly more condensed, and his strength had obviously increased by a sliver. This was the uniqueness of the true lake realm. In this realm, as long as a cultivator cultivated, his strength would increase, more or less. This was something that the previous two realms could not compare to. In the previous two realms, whether it was Spirit Stream or Cloud River, a cultivator's strength would only increase by leaps and bounds after a breakthrough in his realm. But the true lake realm was not like this. In this realm, as the cultivator cultivated, the increase in strength was continuous and stable. The moment he opened his eyes, Lu Yi suddenly exploded, raising his hand to press the hilt of the Pan Shan saber at his waist. His body arched slightly, like a cheetah about to pounce on its prey, and his spiritual energy burst forth. This was because a figure was quietly standing 10 feet in front of him. But very quickly, he reacted. The person standing in front of him was not just anyone, but his immediate superior, the Pass Lord of Ash Flame Mountain Pass, thought Moon Immortal. He could not help but break out in cold sweat, secretly horrified. Was this the ability of a divine sea realm cultivator? Before he opened his eyes and saw her, he actually did not know when she was standing there, nor did he detect any of her aura. The many arrays that he set up were completely useless. When did she come? The secret of his cultivation and Yi's existence, did she not see clearly? But on second thought, whether it was the secret of his cultivation or Yi's existence, it was not a big deal. The former was at most a special little trick in his cultivation, there was nothing to hide. Even if he told others, they would not be able to imitate it. As for Yi, Jade Blood Sect had records of Yi, and Yi was a disciple of the Jade Blood Sect. If thought Moon Immortal had doubts, she could verify it with the sect. Moreover, if he lived here for a long time in the future, under the eyes of a divine sea realm cultivator, these things would be exposed sooner or later. Thinking of this, Lu Yi relaxed, letting go of the saber hilt, and raised his hand to cup his fist. Lord! Thought Moon Immortal said lightly, your array skills are not bad, this bamboo house is not bad either. Lord, you flatter me. Lu Yi thought to himself, no matter how good my attainments in the array Dao are, you still manage to sneak in without me noticing. Thinking about it this way, wouldn't this Mountain Pass Master's attainments in array Dao be world-shaking? She was a ghost cultivator? Lu Yi was a little slow to react. Lu Yi naturally didn't know what sect the thought Moon Immortal belonged to, but judging from the clues in front of him, it was very likely that she was a ghost cultivator. Even a ghost cultivator like Ing Wuji could intimidate cultivators in the same realm, not to mention a ghost cultivator in the spirit sea realm. Lu Yi couldn't imagine how powerful a ghost cultivator like this could be. My lord, is there anything else? Lu Yi saw her staring at him coldly and felt a little pressured. The thought Moon Immortal didn't speak any further. Her figure swayed slightly before she vanished. Lu Yi didn't even see how she left. Inside the bamboo house, Lu Yi was confused. What do you mean? Why would the Mountain Pass Master come all the way here just to praise him? It didn't make sense. Yi tugged at Lu Ye's clothes from the side. Lu Yi, does she want this bamboo house? A woman's thoughts were undoubtedly more meticulous. Lu Yi was confused by the thought Moon Immortal's actions, but he vaguely saw something. Impossible. Lu Yi flatly denied it. If she wants it, she can just build one herself. Why would she want to steal mine? With her abilities as a spirit sea realm cultivator, she could easily build a 3-story bamboo house. That's true. Yi nodded, thinking that she might be overthinking it. But the thought Moon Immortal's words clearly had a hidden meaning. There was no point in thinking too much. After cultivating for so many days, it was unavoidably boring. Let's go out for a walk, Lu Yi said and brought Hu Po and Yi out the door. At a glance, he saw the thought Moon Immortal sitting on the trunk of a large tree outside. Her back was leaning against the tree, her gaze was distant as she gazed into the distance. No one knew what she was thinking. Lu Yi raised his eyebrows, not sure why she was at his side. Or was it that this was originally her resting place, and he just happened to build a bamboo house here? Taking a few steps forward and looking up, Lu Yi called out, "My lord, do you have an order?" In his imagination, when he reached the front line of the military prefecture guard, he would have to fight a battle of wits and courage with the cultivators of the myriad Devil Ridge. But the environment here seemed to be a bit too comfortable. There was only him and the thought Moon Immortal at the ruined pass, and there were no signs of myriad Devil Ridge cultivators coming to attack or infiltrate. The thought Moon Immortal gave him the position of a guard, but he couldn't really stay here forever. As a military prefecture guard, he couldn't act on his own without orders. This made things a bit difficult. You want a mission? The thought Moon Immortal slowly came back to her senses and looked down. If there is one, the thought Moon Immortal nodded. With a flip of her jade hand, the guard token appeared. She didn't seem to do anything, but Lu Yi immediately sensed something. He hurriedly grabbed his own guard token and immersed his mind to investigate it. A moment later, he looked at the thought Moon Immortal with a speechless expression. The missions of the military prefecture guard were transmitted verbally by the higher-ups, and also through the guard token. The thought Moon Immortal's action just now was obviously to give him a mission through the guard token. The content of the mission was also very complicated. Find a place for the mountain pass master. Seeing the content of the mission, the corner of Yun He's eyes couldn't help but twitch. He had hit the nail on the head. But if you want it, just say it. If you don't say it, how will I know? Besides, you're a great cultivator of the Blue Flame Mountain. Is it difficult to build a bamboo house? Before I came, where did you stay? You can't have been living in the open for so many years. Thinking about it, there was really such a possibility. He had checked the city of the myriad Devil Ridge. There were no signs of people living there, and it had been many years since anyone lived there. Lu Yi also didn't have any buildings in the distance. In other words, during the days when the thought Moon Immortal guarded the myriad Devil Ridge alone, she didn't have a fixed residence. Yun He had a belly full of curses with nowhere to vent. At the same time, he was angry and amused. "Sir, if you don't mind, the bamboo house behind me has just been built." Before she finished speaking, the thought Moon Immortal had already flashed into the 3rd floor of the bamboo house. In the next moment, the praying mat that Li Yuan had left inside was thrown out and caught by him. His eyelids twitched even more. Burning the bridge after crossing the river was a bit too much. Yun He had never thought that his mountain pass master was such a great cultivator of the Blue Flame Mountain. However, he quickly sensed something and hurriedly lowered his head to check his battlefield imprint. His belly full of complaints instantly disappeared without a trace. There was no other reason. In the battlefield imprint, there was a change in the battle merit information. Originally, after buying the Golden Spirit lot from the War Merit Pavilion, he had kept 4,672 battle merit points. Now, it had become 42,672 battle merit points. In other words, he had an extra 2,000 battle merit points. There was such a good thing? Yun He was extremely surprised. He knew that one could obtain battle merit points in the military state guard. This was also the most attractive aspect of the military state guard. Moreover, there were many more ways to obtain battle merit than cultivators in the Spirit Peak battlefield. The monthly salary was one thing, killing enemies was another, and carrying out missions was another. These were all things that the Spirit Peak battlefield did not have. However, in his opinion, the so-called carrying out missions was definitely related to the confrontation between the two factions. Was it okay to offer a bamboo house to his mountain pass master? This was somewhat bizarre. From the looks of it, as long as one completed the mission given by the peak, no matter what the mission was, one could obtain battle merit points. It had nothing to do with fighting against Li Yuan cultivators. Although 2,000 battle merit points were not much, it was not easy to build a bamboo house. No matter how one looked at it, it was a good deal. Sir, the bamboo house is too small for your status. Do you need this subordinate to build a bigger residence for you? Yunhee asked loudly. Yi looked at him in surprise, as if she was looking at a bootlicker. There was no response. Yunhee sighed, feeling that it was a pity. However, there was nothing he could do. Since the bamboo house had been offered, he could only build another one. Fortunately, this matter was not troublesome. As for the location, Yunhee did not want to live on the same mountain as Thought Moon Immortal. After all, she was a major cultivator of Li Yuan. Living on the same mountain as her would be a little stressful. Hence, he found another piece of land far away. Together with Yi, they spent some time to build a new bamboo house. Just as they were done here, there was movement from Wei Ling. Evidently, there was another mission. Yunhee hurriedly checked and found out that the mission this time was for him to hunt some wild animals in the mountains and cook some food. This was the right thing to do. There were still many wild animals in Wan Mo Ridge. There were even traces of demonic beasts. With his true lake stage strength, it was naturally easy for him to capture them. He flashed out and soon, he had a harvest. Carrying the prey, he went to the piece of land where Thought Moon Immortal was and started a fire below the bamboo house. It was not that he wanted to show off, but the mission clearly stated that he was required to cook here. He peeled off the skin and cleaned the flesh. First, he threw half of the fresh meat to Hu Po and roasted the other half over the fire. Li Yuan had done this many times. Naturally, she was familiar with it. As for the culinary skills, she could only say that it was not bad. After an hour, the aroma of the meat filled the air. Just as Yunhee was about to tear off the fattest part and send it to Thought Moon Immortal, a figure flashed in front of him. Thought Moon Immortal ran out herself. Yi rolled her eyes and hurriedly stood up. She moved the stool she was sitting on to behind Thought Moon Immortal and called out sweetly, "Sister, have a seat." Thought Moon Immortal looked at her strangely but did not say anything. She sat down leisurely. Yi gave Yunhee a look. Yunhee hurriedly handed over the cooked meat he had prepared. "My lord, please enjoy." Thought Moon Immortal nodded slightly. She raised her hand to receive it and ate slowly. It was not that it tasted bad. In any case, she ate everything that Yunhee gave her. She did not even spit out the bones. Yunhee and Yi were both stunned. Chapter 868. Since that day, Thought Moon Immortal would occasionally give Lu Yi missions through Wei Ling. They were all trivial matters, mostly related to eating and drinking. There was even one mission that asked him to go to a nearby mountain pass to buy a special kind of wine. Every time he completed a mission, he would gain merit points, ranging from a few hundred to 2,000. In just a few days, Lu Yi had gained close to 10,000 merit points. The harvest was not bad, but Lu Yi felt that something was not right. Things should not be developing like this. On this day, Lu Yi was still cooking at Thought Moon Immortal's spiritual peak. He was roasting beast meat on the fire, boiling hot soup in the pot, and there were a few jars of wine on the table, waiting for Thought Moon Immortal's arrival. Generally speaking, she would only show up when Lu Yi was ready. Suddenly, the smell of a burnt lake came. Yi turned her head and exclaimed, "Lu Yi, the lake is roasted." She quickly went forward and snatched the roasted meat from his hand, trying to salvage the situation. When she turned her head again, she saw Lu Yi frowning and sitting there with a bitter expression. "What's wrong?" Yi did not understand, not knowing what Lu Yi was worried about. "Something's wrong." Lu Yi shook his head. "What's wrong? It shouldn't be like this." He entered the military state guards to guard the front line, not to be a servant here. Although there were orders from above and no one disobeyed, what was he doing these days? He suddenly stood up and kicked over the soup pot in front of him. In Yi's exclamation, he flipped over the table, and the wine he bought from the nearby mountain pass also fell to the ground. He looked up at the bamboo house not far away and cupped his fist. "Lord, subordinate has something to say." On the third floor of the bamboo house, a beautiful figure appeared. Thought Moon Immortal floated down. Looking at the mess on the ground, she said, "Speak." "Lord, this subordinate requests Lord to give me some proper missions. Please don't let this subordinate do these miscellaneous tasks. The previous missions were not proper." "Proper or not, don't you know?" Lu Yi had a stomach full of depression, but he had nowhere to vent. Although merit points were good things, it did not come from this. If this continued, he would be crippled. "Sir, this is the Tsang Yen Mountain Pass. You and I are both military prefecture guards and should take care of our duties. We shouldn't be idle like this." Nian Yu Xian, who was originally on the third floor, suddenly appeared in front of him. She was only a foot away from him, and her gaze became sharp. "Am I very old?" "That's what I said, but that's not what I meant. Sir, there's no need to harp on the word tenancy." Lu Yi couldn't help but take 2 steps back. Nian Yu Immortal just stared at him quietly, making Lu Ye's hair stand on end. After a while, she said, "I understand." Lu Yi exhaled deeply and said in a deep voice, "If that's the case, I want to drink fish soup." Fish soup made from blood-red scales. I haven't had it in years." Lu Yi suddenly didn't know how to respond, and how did she know about the blood-red scales? This should be a product of the Moon Lake of the Jade Blood Sect, or had she tasted it somewhere else? "Within 5 days, I want to drink fresh, blood-red fish soup," Thought Moon Immortal said. "My lord, what I said just now, you want to disobey?" Thought Moon Immortal's tone was unhurried. Their eyes met, and after a long while, Lu Yi gritted his teeth and said word by word, "This subordinate obeys." As he said this, he waved his hand. Hoopa jumped up and was about to land on his shoulder, but he was sucked in by a force in midair. When he came back to his senses, he was already in Thought Moon Immortal's arms. Her slender, jade-like hand stroked Hoopa's fur like a kitten. "Master, save me!" Hoopa glared at the 2 tiger cubs, conveying his wish to Lu Yi. Lu Yi raised his hand and pressed down on the hilt of his saber, looking coldly at Thought Moon Immortal. "The 2 of them stay with me. You go alone." Thought Moon Immortal didn't seem to notice his hostility. She turned around and threw her back to him, looking completely unguarded. "Don't worry, I won't eat it." It would have been better if she hadn't said this. As soon as she said this, Hoopa immediately trembled. Yi stepped forward and grabbed Lu Ye's arm, shaking her head. "Don't be impulsive. Go quickly and come back quickly. She doesn't mean any harm." The main thing was that he couldn't beat her. Her cultivation was at the divine ocean realm. Even if she really didn't guard against Lu Yi couldn't possibly be her opponent. Moreover, in the military province guards, offending one's superior was a great taboo. "Please take good care of the 2 of them, sir. The 2 of them are this subordinate's beloved friends." After Lu Yi finished speaking, he soared into the sky. Fiery red spiritual energy flowed behind his back, transforming into a pair of wings, and he quickly flew away. "Beloved friends, huh?" Thought Moon Immortal's figure paused. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly, and she raised her hand to tap Hoopa's nose. Seeing her reveal such an expression, Hoopa panicked even more. His eyes rolled back and he directly fainted. Thought Moon Immortal pinched his neck, saying softly, "If you don't wake up, then I'm going to cook a pot of tiger bone soup." Hu Po immediately opened his eyes, full of energy, indicating that he was just taking a short nap. He never would have thought that after entering the military province guards, he wouldn't even see a single cultivator from the myriad Devil Ridge, and would actually have to return to his sect first. After these few days of contact, Lu Yi found that Thought Moon Immortal was more or less unreliable. He didn't know why he was so unlucky to be assigned to be her subordinate. Moreover, he was the only one assigned to the Vicissitude Flame Mountain Pass. What exactly was going on over at Grand Sky City? However, the allocation of soldiers was decided by the higher-ups, and Lu Yi couldn't do anything about it. The journey to the Jade Blood sect was not short, and Thought Moon Immortal only gave him 5 days. In other words, he had to rush back to his sect within 2.5 days. The mission had already been issued through the guard token. If he missed the deadline, not to mention not being able to complete the mission, Thought Moon Immortal would very likely make things difficult for him. Lu Yi suspected that she was using this method to force him to leave the Vicissitude Flame Mountain Pass. Before his arrival, she had always been alone. His arrival might have broken the peace of her life, causing her to feel a little uncomfortable. Therefore, she kept ordering him around and giving him some trivial missions. Otherwise, how could a spirit ocean realm cultivator like her have so much appetite for food? She even asked him to go to the nearby mountain pass to buy some special wine. Lu Yi also didn't see any signs of her drinking. Time was of the essence, and he sped along. What made Lu Yi feel slightly relieved was that after his cultivation broke through to the true lake realm, his speed had greatly increased. There was enough time to rush back and forth in 5 days. If it was before his breakthrough, this mission might have really failed. He traveled through the night, and only occasionally stopped to recover his strength before continuing on his journey. After a full 2 days, he finally arrived at the Fragrant Mountain. He didn't guard the front, and went straight to the Moon Lake. From afar, he saw Shui Yuan's figure waiting there. Lu Yi had already informed Shui Yuan on the way, so his second senior sister knew that he was going to rush back. However, there was another figure beside Shui Yuan. When he got closer, he knew that it was Pang Huanin. She had returned from the Wushuang continent. His figure flashed like lightning and landed in front of the two. "Senior Brother Lu." Pang Huanin greeted with a smile. "Palace Master Pang," Lu Yi replied and looked at Shui Yuan. "Second senior sister, I'll catch some fish first. We'll talk later." Saying so, he flashed into the Moon Lake and shuttled back and forth. A moment later, he rushed out again. His body was protected by spirit energy, so he didn't get wet at all. "Congratulations, senior brother, for breaking through to the true lake realm." Pang Huanin congratulated. The spirit energy fluctuations emitted by Lu Yi made her understand that he had broken through from the 8th Order Cloud River realm to the true lake realm in such a short period of time. She couldn't help but feel envious and amazed at how convenient it was for the cultivators of the 9 regions to cultivate. "Palace Master Pang, you're not far from the true lake realm." Lu Yi nodded. Pang Huanin was originally at the peak of the Cloud River realm. Due to the environment of the Wushuang continent, she couldn't break through to the true lake realm. Now that she was in the 9 regions, the true lake realm was not the end of her cultivation. She would definitely reach the spirit ocean realm in the future. It was just that she had been busy with worldly affairs recently, so she didn't have time to cultivate in seclusion. Many people from the Ziwei Dao Palace had come to Fragrant Mountain with the help of the Blue Blood sect's Heaven's Fate Pillar. They were building the sect and the foundation of the sect on the 30 peaks that Pang Huanin had marked out. After everything was done, the Ziwei Dao Palace could establish a sect in the 9 regions. At that time, they would announce to the military province that the Blue Blood sect was the upper sect. The news had already spread, which shocked many sects in the military province because there were many sects more powerful than the Blue Blood sect in the military province. Many people didn't understand why the Ziwei Dao Palace chose the Blue Blood sect as their upper sect. Only a few people who knew the reason behind Pang Huanin's decision. This was a joyous occasion for the Blue Blood sect, so no one was interfering. Second senior sister, do you know Thought Moon Immortal? Lu Yi looked at Shui Yuan again. Previously, when she was communicating with Shui Yuan, Lu Yi had mentioned the reason for her return. Naturally, she had also mentioned the missing Moon Immortal. She had also complained a lot about the missing Moon Immortal. Shui Yuan didn't reply much and only told him to wait until they met. However, from Shui Yuan's words, she seemed to know Thought Moon Immortal. I know her. Logically speaking, I should call her senior sister. Shui Yuan nodded. Lu Yi couldn't help but be surprised. She also came from our Blue Blood sect? But then again, Yi was right when she called Thought Moon Immortal sister. On the contrary, it was wrong for him to call her senior. Of course not. Shui Yuan laughed. She has never joined any sect. Strictly speaking, she is a loose cultivator. A loose cultivator? Lu Yi exclaimed. He more or less knew how harsh the environment was for loose cultivators to grow up in. On the path of cultivation, loose cultivators needed to put in much more effort than sect disciples. For a loose cultivator to cultivate to the divine sea realm, it was impossible to imagine how many hardships she had experienced on the path of cultivation. Just from this point alone, Lu Yi was filled with admiration. Does she have a grudge with our Blue Blood sect? No. Then why is she tormenting me like that? Initially, Lu Yi didn't realize what was going on. He only saw that he had completed the mission and obtained battle merits, and was rather happy. However, after interacting with her for a few days, Lu Yi finally saw some clues. The Thought Moon Immortal was tormenting him. Otherwise, why would she give him those missions when he was at the True Lake stage? Mobile users, please browse. Chapter 869. The previous tasks were basically all about obtaining materials from the local area. The most troublesome task was to go to the nearby mountain pass to buy wine. This time it was too much. If she wanted to drink fish soup, she would have to rush back to the Blue Blood sect. However, the military province guard's order was like a mountain, and she couldn't resist, which made Lu Yi very depressed. Do you think she's torturing you? Shui Yuan asked. Isn't she? Lu Ye's face darkened. Although I don't know why, I always feel that she's using this method to force me to leave the Blue Flame Mountain Pass. So that's what you think? Shui Yuan muttered to herself. Well, as you said, she is indeed torturing you. As for the reason, you can think of it as her revenge. I've never provoked her. Lu Yi frowned. And second senior sister, you just said that she has no enmity with my Blue Blood sect. Who is she taking revenge on? How should I put it? Shui Yuan hesitated for a while before saying, someone once tormented her like this, and that person is from our Blue Blood sect, so she's using the same method to deal with you. Someone? Lu Ye's heart skipped a beat. Second senior sister. Shui Yuan took the lead and confirmed Lu Ye's guess. So that's the reason. Lu Yi was slightly surprised. In that case, not only does she have no enmity with my Blue Blood sect, but she also has some relationship with it? Otherwise, how can you stay in the Blue Flame Mountain Pass? Over the years, the military province guard has sent people to her side, but they were all beaten back by her. Her reputation of guarding the mountain pass alone is not for nothing. She wasn't this stubborn before, but because of some things, her temperament changed. However, you need to remember that she has no malice towards you and will not harm you. I understand. Lu Yi nodded. She finally understood why Thought Moon Immortal knew about Blood Red. It turned out that she did have some relationship with the Blue Blood sect. She must have eaten a lot of Blue Blood sect's fish in the past. There's not much time left, I'll go back now. Take care, senior sister. Lu Yi turned to Pang Huanin and said, Palace Master Pang, take care. Pang Huanin nodded with a smile and watched as Lu Yi flew away. He came and went in a hurry. 2 days later, Lu Yi finally returned to Vicissitude Flame Mountain Pass. From afar, he saw Yi's figure waiting for him in front of the bamboo building. Although what second senior sister had said made Lu Yi realize that she had misunderstood Thought Moon Immortal, she was still worried about Yi and Hu Po. Only when he saw Yi now did he feel at ease. Did anything happen? Lu Yi asked. Yi shook her head, then took out a guard token and waved it in her hand as if she was presenting a treasure. Look, I have this too. She was a disciple of the Blue Blood sect who had been recruited by the headmaster himself. She had her own battlefield mark. Logically speaking, she was qualified to become a weapon state guard. However, she had never shown herself in front of outsiders, so she had never thought of joining the military province guards. But now, she had her own guard token. Where did it come from? Lu Yi was surprised. Master Li gave it to me. Yi was immensely proud of herself. She thought for a moment and whispered to Lu Yi, Lu Yi, you might have misunderstood the past master. She's actually quite a nice person. She took good care of us when you weren't around. Also, she likes Hu Po a lot. She's been bringing it with her wherever she goes. A useless guard token was enough to buy you over? Lu Ye's heart ached. What position did she give you? Yi said proudly, Vicissitude Master Li of Vicissitude Mountain Pass. Lu Yi frowned. What position is that? Although he didn't know much about the many military positions in the military province guards, the title of Vicissitude Master didn't sound very reliable. The Mountain Pass Master said that the position of Vicissitude Mountain Pass is under one person and above all. Lu Yi was amused. Aside from you and Hu Po, there are only 2 people here. You're saying that you're below one person and above 10,000 people? As she laughed, she realized that something was off. Above me. Yi held back her laughter and nodded seriously. That's right. Lu Yi suddenly felt like he was being targeted. He was inexplicably irritated. Because of what second senior sister said before, he thought that he had misunderstood Thought Moon Immortal. But now, it seemed that he was still too naive. Let's cook the fish soup first. Lu Yi put an end to this sad topic. In the entire Vicissitude Mountain Pass, there were 2 people, 1 spirit, 1 tiger. In the end, he was the one at the bottom. The bonfire rose and steam rose. The aroma of the fish soup wafted out. Thought Moon Immortal was like a noble lady. She carried Hu Po in her arms and walked down from the 3rd floor of the bamboo building. She came to the table and sat down. Hu Po looked at Lu Yi with teary eyes. His expression was saying, Master, please save me. Being carried in the arms of a divine sea realm cultivator and being together for several days, Hu Po was under a lot of pressure. He felt that his future was bleak. Lu Yi was busy. He put a bowl of fish soup in front of Thought Moon Immortal and said unwillingly, Sir, please enjoy. Thought Moon Immortal nodded and picked up the fish soup. At first, she only sipped it lightly. But soon, she drank it in big mouthfuls. After she finished, she pushed the bowl in front of Lu Yi. Lu Yi understood tacitly and scooped another bowl for her. After drinking 3 bowls in a row, Thought Moon Immortal slowed down. She even picked up a fish bone to feed Hu Po. I'm a tiger, not a cat. Hu Po tried to struggle, but to no avail. He could only accept his fate. He chewed on the fish bone, looking like he had a deep grudge. Seeing that Thought Moon Immortal seemed to be in a good mood, and even had a faint smile on her face, Lu Yi said, Sir, I have something to discuss with you. Thought Moon Immortal made a soft sound from her nose. Lu Yi said, Can we not give out missions like before next time? You don't want to? Lu Yi shook his head. In the end, I am a military prefecture guard. Since I am a military prefecture guard, I will naturally do whatever my superiors ask of me. It's just that, if Sir has any trivial needs in life, just say the word. I will not refuse. But please don't use the guard token to give out missions. Lu Yi was not too sure how he had obtained the merit from completing various missions, but it was clearly not a long-term plan to obtain merit this way. It was also very unreliable. The mysteries of heaven were everywhere. If everyone played this way, merit would not be so useful. He could faintly sense that continuing to obtain merit this way was not a good thing. Thought Moon Immortal was a little surprised that he would say this, but she understood what he meant. You want to do great things. That's not it. I just hope that Sir can consider the missions you give out in the future. It would be best if you could give out some missions related to the military prefecture guard. Contrary to Lu Ye's expectations, Thought Moon Immortal actually went along with it. She held the guard token in her hand and said, 3 missions. You can choose one. Lu Ye's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly took out his own guard token to check. There were indeed 3 more missions hidden in the information. Looking at the first mission, Lu Yi frowned in confusion. Sir, who is this Wanzhong Gang? The content of the mission was very simple. Kill Wanzhong Gang. While feeding Hu Po, Nian Yuxian explained calmly, he's my old rival. Thousands of miles away, there's a solitary cloud city in the myriad Devil Ridge. He's the mountain pass master there, and also the city lord of Solitary Cloud City. When he heard Thought Moon Immortal say that this was her old rival, Lu Yi did not want to continue listening. Thought Moon Immortal was a Shun High Realm cultivator. To be able to become her old rival, he was naturally at the Divine Ocean Realm. As expected, asking a true Lake Realm cultivator to kill a Divine Ocean Realm cultivator, and a Pass Lord at that, was simply a fool's dream. Even though Lu Yi knew that if he really completed this mission, the merit he would obtain would be extremely huge, he could only pretend that he did not see it. He looked at the second mission. Repair the many fortifications of the Ash Flame Mountain Pass. This was not dangerous. After all, the Ash Flame Mountain Pass was his own territory. But, currently, there was only him and the Thought Moon Immortal in the entire pass. Even if Yi and Hu Po were included, there were only 4 of them. Those defensive structures had not been used for many years and had long since been destroyed. Not to mention the difficulty of repairing them, even if they were repaired, they would not be of any use. It was a complete waste of time. He looked at the third mission. Patrol the area around the pass and guard against sneaky people. Lu Yi fell silent and could only say, Lord, I choose the third mission. Then, the contents of the first 2 missions disappeared from the token. Only the third mission was left. It is good to have the heart to do great things. But it is not good to have the heart but not the strength. Many great things are slowly accumulated from small things. The Thought Moon Immortal seemed to be teaching Lu Yi. Madam is right. Lu Yi nodded, but he had a nagging feeling that something was not quite right. From tomorrow onwards, I will leave the patrol around the pass to you. As Thought Moon Immortal spoke, she got up and walked towards her bamboo house. After a few steps, she said, Oh right, since you are responsible for the patrol, I will give you another mission. Lu Yi shook the guard token in his hand and immediately felt a change in his battlefield imprint. He looked carefully and saw that the information on his identity changed again. Identity: Blue Blood Sect Disciple, Blue Flame Mountain Pass Guard, Blue Flame Mountain Pass Patrol Guard. Lu Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. After coming to Vicissitude Flame Mountain Pass, he had obtained 2 positions, including Yi's position as an advisor. That made it 3. But what was the use? It wasn't that having more missions didn't mean you would be famous enough. You couldn't scare away enemies with just these missions. Hu Po finally broke free from Thought Moon Immortal's claws and jumped into Lu Ye's arms. It raised its meaty paws and whimpered. Clearly it was complaining. Other than stroking its fur these few days, Thought Moon Immortal had been pinching its little paws. The man and tiger looked at each other. Lu Yi sighed. You are living under someone else's roof. Hu Po immediately felt dejected. But then again, although he had been running around for a few days, he had gotten quite a bit of battle merit this time. It was 10,000 points. By now, Lu Ye's battle merit had reached 59,870 points. In other words, since coming to Blue Flame Mountain Pass, he had gotten close to 20,000 points. But Lu Yi still felt uneasy about gaining battle merit like this. Fortunately, all of this was finally over and he had gotten a proper mission. Thought Moon Immortal was right. Those who wanted to achieve great things had to start from small things. Chapter 870. Ashen Flame Mountain Pass, with Ashen Flame Mountain City as the center, radiated thousands of miles to the left and right, all under the jurisdiction of this pass. From the map, the pass was surrounded by White Jade City Pass on the left and Clear Moon Cave Pass on the right. Although the three passes were separated by a certain distance, they could cooperate with each other from afar and form a defense line. The defense line on the side of the military prefecture guards was connected by the passes. White Jade City Pass on the left was the same as Ashen Flame Mountain Pass, both belonging to the Great Moon Pass. Clear Moon Cave Pass on the right belonged to the Small Moon Pass. In this way, Ashen Flame Mountain was the rightmost defensive node of the entire defense line of the Great Moon Pass. Under normal circumstances, this defense line that stretched for 2,000 miles required a large number of cultivators to spread out and patrol to prevent myriad Devil Ridge cultivators from sneaking in. However, on Ashen Flame Mountain, other than Thought Moon Immortal, Lu Yi was the only one. Naturally, they couldn't count on anyone else. Right now, Lu Yi was in charge of patrolling the area around the pass. It was his duty to check for loopholes and fill in the gap. After resting for the night, Lu Yi set off with Hu Po and Yi before the sky brightened the next day. He and Hu Po were in the light, while Yi was in the dark. Although there were few people, with his powerful perception and Yi's concealment, if there were any myriad Devil Ridge cultivators hiding nearby, it would be difficult for them to escape detection. While he was patrolling, a melody that he had almost forgotten began to play in his mind. The king asked me to patrol the mountain. I'll take a look around the human world. He hurriedly shook his head and dispelled this inappropriate thought. The defense line that radiated 2,000 miles to the left and right of Ashen Flame Mountain didn't even include the depth. It was impossible for Lu Yi to complete his patrol in a day. His original plan was to only patrol the nearby 100 miles of Fan Country. Even so, it would take him half a day. The lack of manpower here was the biggest problem. He could only ensure that there were no enemies within a radius of 100 miles. Moreover, before he arrived, Thought Moon Immortal was guarding alone and probably wouldn't do this patrol. After so many years, the defense line was still stable. Therefore, although he was now in charge of patrolling, it was most likely just a formality. However, as Lu Yi continued to investigate, he soon discovered something interesting. The deeper he went into the defense line, the stronger the burning sensation in the air. When Lu Yi first came to Honko, she felt that the environment here seemed to be hotter than other places. Previously, he had been tormented by the Thought Moon Immortal in all sorts of ways, so he didn't have the time to think too much about it. But now, he had a different discovery. Thinking back to the location of the mountain pass, Ashen Flame Mountain, and the fact that the mountain had the word flame in it, undoubtedly explained a lot of things. He had originally wanted to use the guard token to send a message to the missing Moon Immortal to inquire about the situation and see if it was really as he thought. But after thinking about it for a while, he decided to drop the idea. Although she had her second senior sister's guarantee that she wouldn't have any malice towards her, she had been tormented by her for a period of time. Lu Yi wanted to avoid any contact with her as much as possible. After confirming the direction, he continued to walk deeper into the defensive line. Along the way, there were no disturbances and not a single myriad Devil Ridge cultivator could be seen. Perhaps they didn't encounter any, or perhaps no myriad Devil Ridge cultivator dared to cause trouble. Lu Yi felt that it should be the former. One person suppressing an entire group. Although it sounded awe-inspiring, there would inevitably be many loopholes in the defensive line. Even if the missing Moon Immortal was a Divine Sea Realm cultivator, it was impossible for her to constantly use her divine perception to monitor the surroundings. Lu Yi reckoned that there would be many myriad Devil Ridge cultivators sneaking into the Grand Heaven Alliance's territory from the defensive line at the entrance of the continent. Of course, there was a risk in doing so, because once the missing Moon Immortal sensed it, it would be difficult for even an immortal to save them. But no matter which position they chose to sneak into the enemy's territory, they would have to bear all kinds of risk. There was no lack of skilled and daring people who would take the risk. The burning sensation became more and more obvious. Even the air was filled with a strange pungent smell. Lu Yi was excited and realized that he was right. There was definitely something like a volcano in front of him. There was still a half-activated spirit pattern on his talent tree. Because the talent tree didn't devour enough rare flames and alchemy fire, it had been a long time. Recently, he had been working hard to find suitable rare flames and alchemy fire in the Tianji treasure vault, but his harvest was meager. But he didn't expect to find it here. This was really a case of wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it by chance. However, he was already close to the myriad Devil Ridge's sphere of influence. According to this situation, even if there really was something like a volcano in front of him, it would definitely be in the myriad Devil Ridge's territory. He had to be more careful. If his whereabouts were exposed in the other party's territory, he wouldn't have a good ending. After walking another 200 kilometers, there was no longer any greenery in the surroundings. The pungent smell in the air became more and more obvious. When he looked up, he saw a bare mountain in front of him. At the entrance of the mountain, there was a scorching heat wave spewing out, burning the void to the point of distorting. Lu Yi didn't rush forward. Instead, he first took out the 10-point map to check his position. After a while, he frowned. This location was awkward for him because it was obviously the myriad Devil Ridge's territory. There could be myriad Devil Ridge cultivators patrolling the area at any time. If he went there, it would be difficult to hide his whereabouts. After thinking for a moment, Lu Yi decided to go. He was now a true Lake Realm cultivator. Although he had just advanced to the First Order not long ago, his strength had changed dramatically compared to the past. As long as he didn't encounter an enemy that was too powerful, there wouldn't be any problems. As for the other party's Spirit Sea Realm cultivator, there was no need to worry too much. Generally speaking, the Spirit Sea Realm cultivators guarding the entrance wouldn't easily take action to avoid giving the other party an opportunity. Cultivators of the Divine Sea Realm were like the stabilizing force of the sea for every mountain pass. Even at the front line of the confrontation between the two camps, it was rare to encounter a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator fighting. Because at their level of cultivation, they could see many things that the cultivators below them couldn't. Unless there was some deep hatred, they wouldn't fight under ordinary circumstances. This was a rare opportunity. The fire attribute energy contained in such a volcano was extremely large. If Lu Yi could benefit from it, it wouldn't be as simple as opening a spirit rune on his talent tree. He might even be able to open more. After making up his mind, Lu Yi immediately stepped forward. But before that, he had already called Yi back and stuffed the amber into his spirit beast bag. The environment here was harsh. Although the spirit beast and tiger could resist it, it would still consume a lot of energy. Moreover, the amber symbol was too obvious. If a cultivator familiar with Lu Yi saw it, they would immediately associate it with Lu Yi himself. Putting away the amber, Lu Yi could still find a way to mediate if he encountered a myriad Demon Ridge cultivator. Flying forward, Lu Yi arrived at the mouth of the volcano. Looking down, he saw waves of heat and magma surging and boiling below. From time to time, bubbles would burst, creating an astonishing scene. At this point, even Lu Yi had to push his spirit chi to resist the scorching heat. This reminded him of the spirit stream battlefield and the scene of the Land of Fire. At that time, his cultivation wasn't high, so the environment was very similar to the one he was in now. However, although the Land of Fire was in the spirit stream battlefield, the quality of the phoenix fire hidden there was much higher than here. After coming into contact with strange flames and pill fires many times, Lu Yi could tell the quality of these things at a glance. The quality of the fire attribute energy here was naturally not good, but it was superior in quantity. If he could stay here for a long time, the talent tree should be able to eat its fill. He didn't know how many leaves it could ignite and how many spirit inscriptions it could unlock. Lu Yi naturally longed for such a precious place. Without much hesitation, Lu Yi jumped directly into the mouth of the volcano. A few dozen feet away, a figure hidden in the void quietly observed him. From beginning to end, Lu Yi had not noticed at all. Only thought Moon Immortal could have such attainments in the Tao of concealment and follow behind Lu Yi. Seeing him jump in like this, thought Moon Immortal was a little surprised, not knowing what Lu Yi wanted. But then she remembered that Lu Yi cultivated a fire attribute cultivation method, so perhaps he wanted to use the environment here to cultivate. "You're quite bold," thought Moon Immortal, snorted softly, but did not follow. She had been following behind Lu Yi mainly because this was Lu Ye's first patrol mission. She only had one subordinate, and he was also a disciple of the Blue Blood sect, so she should pay more attention to him. In the end, he discovered that this brat had actually come to the territory of the Myriad Demon's Ridge, and even jumped into the volcano. Thought Moon Immortal did not intend to jump in with him. Although the environment here was bad, since Lu Yi chose to do so, he must have a certain degree of confidence. They were all people who had cultivated to the true lake stage, so it was impossible for others to worry about everything. She could pay more attention to Lu Yi, but she would not take care of him like a mother. If that was the case, then he would not be able to go far on the path of cultivation. Looking in the direction of the distant lonely mountain city, thought Moon Immortal said to herself, "Since we're already here, let's go take a look." It had been a long time since she visited that old ghost Wanzhonggang. She did not know if he was dead or not. In the front line of the confrontation between the two camps, Divine Sea stage cultivators would not be easily dispatched. There was only one exception. That was thought Moon Immortal of the Blue Flame Mountain. Other Divine Sea stage cultivators would guard the entrance of their own Blue Flame Mountain city. For many years, they would guard the entrance of their own Blue Flame Mountain city. The thought Moon Immortal, on the other hand, did not care about the Blue Flame Mountain at all. When she was in the mood, she would make a trip to Lonely Mountain City, causing the Myriad Devil Ridge in Lonely Mountain City to suffer unspeakably. Wanzhonggang was quite angry about this, but he could not do anything to her. A Divine Sea stage ghost cultivator who was proficient in concealment and array formation could not be stopped if she wanted to sneak into a place. Even if her whereabouts were exposed, she had the ability to kill her way out. If other Divine Sea stage cultivators at other mountain passes dared to do this, the Myriad Devil Ridge would definitely give them a taste of their own medicine. However, the Blue Flame Mountain City was special, so the Myriad Devil Ridge was destined to be powerless. Thought Moon Immortal guarded the Blue Flame Mountain City alone. Even if the mountain pass was occupied, so what? Haotian Alliance would not lose a single soldier. On the contrary, thought Moon Immortal, who was unrestrained, would become even more terrifying. She clicked to download the best book-chasing app. Many readers used this to read books aloud. Chapter 871. Inside the volcano, the temperature was extremely high. The lava below was boiling and bubbles were bursting, creating a shocking scene. In such a harsh environment, even a true lake stage cultivator would lose a layer of skin if they were to accidentally fall into it. Lu Yi looked left and right for a moment, then plunged downwards, activating his spiritual energy to protect himself. He cultivated a fire attribute technique, and his spiritual energy was also of the fire attribute. Compared to other cultivators, he naturally had a stronger resistance to such an environment. Hence, even though the environment was harsh, it was not a big deal. The volcano was more than 100 feet deep. Lu Yi came to the bottom before stopping. He found a suitable spot and took out his Pan Shan saber to carve out a foothold. With this foothold, Lu Yi activated the power of the talent tree to cover himself. In an instant, the burning sensation disappeared. Not only that, Lu Yi could clearly feel that the surrounding heat was being devoured by the talent tree and turned into fuel for the talent tree. If one activated the insight spirit tattoos in their eyes, they would be able to clearly see that Lu Ye's body was covered with thin, root-like things. These were the roots of the talent tree. It was also the protection of these roots that prevented Lu Yi from being roasted by the scorching heat. Previously, in the Huitian Valley's spiritual land, Huoliao Yuan of the Sacred Fire Sect took out the battle stage and wanted to kill Lu Yi. However, no matter how powerful his spells were, Lu Yi could easily block them. The root of this was the talent tree. With the power of the talent tree, ordinary fire attribute powers could not hurt him at all. Of course, this was also related to the fact that Huoliao Yuan was not strong enough. Although Huoliao Yuan's cultivation was stronger than Lu Ye's, they were still in the same realm. Hence, the talent tree could block his fire attribute spells. 1 second to remember Q. If the difference in strength was too great, the talent tree would not be able to block it no matter how strong it was. At this moment, as the talent tree was activated, a steady stream of energy was being devoured by the talent tree. Lu Yi immersed himself in observing and immediately saw a subtle change in the leaves that were about to ignite. The anticipation in his heart grew stronger. 2 to 3 months ago, this spiritual pattern had already shown its embryonic form. However, Lu Yi had not been able to completely ignite it, so he did not know what this spiritual pattern was. Now that he had such a suitable environment, as long as he had enough time, it would be more than enough to ignite this spiritual pattern. Perhaps there would be even more gains. Time flowed as Lu Shi sat cross-legged. While activating the power of the talent tree to devour the scorching heat from all directions, he swallowed a spirit pill to refine its medicinal effects. The matter of cultivation could not be delayed. After entering the true lake tier, the demand for spiritual power would become even greater. It would not be as easy to advance as it was in the Cloud River tier. Gradually, Lu Yi frowned, because he noticed that the leaves on the tree were set on fire. His speed slowed down a little, and this situation undoubtedly confirmed his previous conjecture. The environment here was harsh, and the scorching power was very strong. It filled the surroundings, but in terms of quality, it wasn't high. Previously, the talent tree had swallowed some strange flames and alchemy flames. Although the quantity was not much, the quality was guaranteed, so it could quickly ignite the leaves of the talent tree. In comparison, the quality of the scorching power here could only be said to be mediocre. At this rate, it would probably take 1 or 2 days to completely ignite that spirit pattern. Lu Yi thought for a moment and lowered his head to look at the rolling magma below. If he could let the roots of the talent tree go deep into the magma, perhaps the current situation could be improved. He didn't dare to say how much the quality of the scorching power he absorbed would increase, but at least the quantity would be guaranteed. After having the talent tree for so many years, Lu Yi more or less had some experience on how to activate its power since the first time he accidentally activated its power. With an idea, he immediately started to do it. The power of his mind surged as he tried to control the roots of the talent tree that appeared on the surface of his body. Unexpectedly, it was not too difficult. The talent tree seemed to know his thoughts, and the roots that covered his body rapidly grew longer and fell into the rolling magma below. With the support of the spirit pattern power, there was a strong fiery red energy that flowed into his body. The changes in the burning leaves under the magma became more and more obvious. Lu Yi hurriedly took out the bottle of soul-cleansing water, dipped a little into it, and stuffed it into his mouth. The essence was the power of his mind. In the past, when he swallowed strange flames and alchemy flames, the process was very fast, and the consumption was not great. Lu Yi could ignore it, but now that he was in the territory of the myriad demon ridge, he had to maintain the power of his mind to prevent it from being too exhausted and becoming haggard and exhausted. Only with a sufficiently energetic mind could he deal with sudden dangers. After the roots of the talent tree fell into the magma, the efficiency of swallowing became much faster. In just half a day, the spirit pattern that Lu Yi had been looking forward to for a long time was completely activated. He hurriedly immersed his mind and looked over. At a glance, he saw dozens of leaves connected together and burning fiercely. If he looked carefully, each leaf carried extremely complicated veined patterns, yin and yang, two elements, and mixed together. He finally got it. Lu Yi stared at the dozens of leaves, and in the next moment, a familiar feeling came over him. He felt as if his soul was being torn apart, and a large amount of information flowed into his mind uncontrollably. The whole process was as if someone had opened his skull and stirred it with a red soldering iron. Fortunately, Lu Ye's mind power was strong enough now. He had also swallowed the soul-cleansing water as a backup, so this pain only lasted for 2 breaths of time before disappearing. Nation God, Lu Yi Shilong Gathering Edition Appearance. 6th edition de 2 Feeling discomfort. He calmly examined the new spirit rune that was passed down from the heavens this time. After a while, his expression became strange. This spirit pattern that he had been looking forward to for 2 or 3 months seemed to be a little different from what he had imagined. What he was looking forward to the most was the void spirit pattern. With his current attainments in Array Dao, the success rate of constructing the void spirit pattern was very high, and it was enough to use the void spirit pattern as the core to set up a teleportation array. However, what he learned from books and what he got from the talent tree were ultimately different. The former had the possibility of failure, while the latter could be completed with the intention of the heart. There had never been a precedent of failure. If he could get the void spirit pattern from the talent tree, he could try many ideas of using the void spirit pattern. At that time, his means of dealing with enemies would definitely become unpredictable. However, what he got this time was not the void spirit pattern. Moreover, this new spirit pattern gave him a feeling that it was a little useless. To say that it was useful, it didn't seem to be useful. To say that it was useless, it might be useful at certain times. Lu Yi quickly patted his face and comforted himself. There are no useless spirit patterns in this world, only useless spirit tattooists. This was something that Meng Pu Jiao One had always kept in mind. For example, when he first got the spirit-gathering spirit pattern, he once thought that this spirit pattern was useless. However, it later proved that the spirit-gathering spirit pattern was the most useful spirit pattern for him, and also the one that benefited him the most. Without this spirit pattern, he would not have been able to construct the small funnel, and his cultivation speed would not have been so fast. However, it was a good thing to gain something. How could he be greedy? Besides, this was just the beginning. Lu Yi immersed himself in observing the talent tree and found that in this moment, dozens of leaves were glowing red, which undoubtedly meant that the next spirit pattern was something worth looking forward to. He was relieved and took another drop of soul-cleansing water to replenish the mental power he had consumed. As the scorching power in the magma was continuously devoured, the light on the dozens of leaves became more and more intense, and gradually showed signs of burning completely. However, at this moment, Lu Ye's heart suddenly jolted, and he frowned. There was the sound of something breaking through the air from afar, and there was also the sound of people talking. Judging from these movements, it was obvious that there was not only one person, but a group, the patrolling cultivators of Myriad Devil Ridge. This was Myriad Devil Ridge's territory, so it was natural that he would encounter Myriad Devil Ridge cultivators. Lu Yi was not surprised and had even expected it. Therefore, he immediately retracted the power of the talent tree and activated the aura-concealing spirit pattern to conceal his own aura. He hoped that these people were just passing by. However, what he was afraid of would happen. This group of cultivators seemed to have come for this volcano. Soon, the sound of their conversation could be heard clearly. Although this place is under the jurisdiction of Lone Mountain City, and there are not many people from Grand Heaven Alliance on the opposite side of Mount Ash, you have to be careful in everything you do. Now that you have entered the State Guard, you have to listen to orders. This is no longer your respective sex, and there are no senior brothers or sisters to take care of you. If anyone dares to disobey orders, then don't blame me for being rude. Yes. Sparse shouts of acknowledgement rang out. The person who spoke earlier changed the topic, and his fierce tone became calm. Of course, our mission this time is not troublesome. As long as you listen to orders obediently, there won't be any problems. Since it's a mission, after completing it, you will be able to obtain merit. I believe I don't need to repeat the importance of merit. There aren't many opportunities to obtain merit on the Cloud River battlefield. Senior Brothering, I'll have to trouble you this time. A soft voice could be heard. It was a female cultivator, soft and gentle. Call me Lord. When you entered the State Guard, someone should have told you that there are no senior brothers or junior brothers on the front lines, only superiors and subordinates. Lording! Be serious, all of you. Immediately after, a woman's laughter could be heard. Looking at this posture, this lording was very easy to get along with. Therefore, even if this trip was a dream, the other cultivators were too afraid of him, and even had the guts to joke with him. All right, when we reach the place, wait for me at the 11th Society. I'll go in and check out the situation. In the depths of the volcano, Lu Ye's expression was strange. It was too coincidental to meet this guy. This person should have already advanced to the True Lake stage and entered the 10,000 State Guard. The State Guard at the Demon Ridge. For him to appear here, could it be that he was assigned to the Lone Mountain City Pass? Wasn't this going to be a show against him? Lu Yi could still remember the time when they were surrounded by zombies in the Heavenly Temple of the Wushuang continent. The Kyushu team was in imminent danger, and almost everyone thought that they were dead for sure. At that time, this fellow vented his anger. Human Dao Great Sage. Chapter 872. At that time, the situation was urgent and he was shrouded in death chi. This guy vented all his grievances and scolded to his heart's content, as if he wouldn't have the chance to vent his anger if he didn't. In the end, at the crucial moment, a large number of 9 prefectures' nightmare army arrived and resolved the danger of the team of 8. After that, the few people who had been poisoned by the Origin Corpse poison went to Hua Ci for treatment, while Lu Yi took giant armor and Lan Zi with him to the Golden Zombie Master of the Hunter element. But Lu Yi remembered this clearly. He thought that after returning to the 9 prefectures and leaving the Cloud River battlefield, everyone would have reached the True Lake realm and there wouldn't be many chances to meet again. Who would have thought that fate would make fools of people and they would meet again so soon? Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. Thinking about it carefully, it wasn't strange. They were all cultivators from the War Province and had to enter the War Province guards to come to the front lines. Lu Yi raised his hand and pressed on the hilt of the mountain pan saber at his waist. Above the volcano, Ing Wuji flew over. Although they had both reached the True Lake realm recently, he had entered the War Province guards much earlier than Lu Yi. When he had just reached the Cloud River realm, he had already joined the War Province guards of the 10,000 Demons Ridge. Regarding the situation at the front lines, he naturally knew more than Lu Yi. Previously, he was restricted by his cultivation and couldn't take on important tasks. Now that he had reached the True Lake realm, he could be considered outstanding. This time, he received a mission to lead the team to collect some earth fire. The mission wasn't difficult, it just required time. Therefore, he was the only True Lake realm cultivator in the team. The others were all Cloud River realm cultivators who had just entered the War Province Guard. Recently, the Cloud River battlefield had been closed and the Cloud River realm cultivators had nowhere to go. They had all rushed to the front lines. This caused the number of cultivators at the various mountain passes to increase greatly and conflicts broke out frequently. After the experience of working with Lu Yi and the others on the Wushuang continent, Ing Wuji had a different view of the conflict between the two camps that had lasted for thousands of years. If it was before, he would think that every cultivator of the Grand Heaven Alliance deserved to die. This had nothing to do with personal grievances, but because of the different camps' standpoints. He also did the same. But now, he wouldn't think that way anymore. Ing Wuji was at a loss. From what he had observed, the lofty and mysterious heaven's secret often encouraged cooperation between the cultivators of the two factions. On the trip to the Wushuang continent, the 9 people of the 9 states advance team had all received the guidance of Tianji. Only then could they gather in one place and rush to the Wushuang continent to save the broken domain. This was clearly the encouragement and arrangement of Tianji. There were also many mystic realms in the Cloud River battlefield. When the cultivators of the two camps entered them, they would have to join forces. But if that was the case, then what was the point of the two camps fighting each other for thousands of years? He couldn't figure it out, so he went to consult his master. He thought that his master would be able to give him some pointers, but his master didn't say much. He just asked him to find day by himself. Ing Wuji, on the other hand, was even more confused. Because of this, he almost delayed his advancement to the True Lake stage. The reason why he entered the Lonely Mountain Pass was not because of the arrangement of the military province guards of the 10,000 Devil Ridge, but because of his own choice. Because according to what he knew, the front lines of the military province between the two camps were the calmest. He needed some time to sort out his messy thoughts. He wanted to use the peace here to figure out the problem that was troubling him. On the other side of the Tsang Yen Mountain Pass, there was a legendary woman guarding it alone. Other than her, there were no other cultivators from the Grand Heaven Alliance. Therefore, there was no need to fight here. He wouldn't be killed, and there was no need to kill. Although the legendary woman would occasionally visit the Lonely Mountain Pass and cause chaos in the Lonely Mountain Pass, and with her abilities, she would definitely cause the 10,000 Devil Ridge to suffer heavy casualties. But up until now, she had never done anything like bullying the weak. Every time she went to the Lonely Mountain Pass, she only killed Wan Zhonggang. Although she failed repeatedly, she persevered. Ing Wuji didn't know what enmity there was between the two Divine Sea stage cultivators that made the extraordinary woman so persistent. But that was the matter of the Divine Sea stage cultivators. It wasn't something he needed to consider. He just needed some time to think and search for day. Activating his spiritual energy to protect his body, he blocked the heat wave. Ing Wuji floated down and saw the figure sitting cross-legged on the rock wall at the bottom of the volcano. There was someone. Ing Wuji immediately became alert. Although the probability of encountering a cultivator from the Grand Heaven Alliance at this position was not high, there were always exceptions. He had always been a careful person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have lived until today. The moment he saw that person, Ing Wuji's gaze went to the person's waist. There was no saber at the waist. Ing Wuji's heart settled. The trip to the Wushuang continent had left him with some psychological trauma. Now, he didn't like weapon cultivators who used sabers the most, especially those who used long sabers. When he looked up again, his mind, which had just calmed down, became chaotic again. Because the person was wearing a mask, he couldn't see his face clearly. He could only infer from the figure that it should be a man. He almost cursed out loud. Because as far as he knew, Lu Ye used to wear a mask everywhere for a period of time to hide his identity. In such a remote volcano, he met someone who was wearing a mask and didn't dare to show his face. This was very problematic. When he looked carefully, Ing Wuji's heart turned cold. Because this person's figure was almost the same as Lu Ye's. Even though he was sitting there cross-legged, Ing Wuji had followed Lu Ye for a long time in the Peerless Continent, so he naturally had some understanding of him. As for whether there was a little beast called Hu Pu on this person's shoulder, it wasn't important. Now that there were spirit beast pouches for sale in the Tianji treasure house, all the cultivators of the beast taming school would buy one to keep their pet beast. The environment in the volcano was hot, but Ing Wuji's body and mind were cold. He roared in his heart. Wasn't this guy Luya? Why was he here? The sweat on his forehead quickly evaporated. Ing Wuji clenched his saber tightly, then loosened it, then tightened it again. His heart was filled with mixed feelings, but he didn't have the courage to fight. Because if the person in front of him was really Luya, he was no match for him. Everyone who followed him on this trip was going to die. He didn't even have the chance to send out a message. Fellow Taoist, what's the matter? The first clan, just when Ing Wuji felt that he was doomed, Lu Yi spoke up. That's right. His voice was naturally not his own. At his cultivation level, even if he didn't cultivate, it was easy for him to change his voice with his spirit force. The reason he didn't draw his saber, and even put away his saber before Ing Wuji arrived, was mainly because Lu Ye didn't want to give up such a precious place. Disregarding everything else, if his identity was exposed here, regardless of whether he could kill all the cultivators from the myriad Devil Ridge, he wouldn't be able to come back here in the future. Moreover, after his trip to the Peerless Continent, he had also become aware of some things. Although his state of mind was not as orderly as Ing Wuji's, he would no longer draw his sword whenever he met people from the myriad Devil Ridge like before. His strength had increased, and his vision had changed. He could see many things that he couldn't before. No matter, Ing Wuji said with difficulty. He was a bit uncertain whether this guy was Lu Ye or not. If it really was him, he shouldn't have asked him this question. He had scolded Lu Ye severely in the Heavenly Palace on the Wushuang continent. According to Lu Ye's character of seeking revenge for the smallest grievance, and even 100-fold, when he saw him at this moment, he would definitely slash at him with his saber. How could he possibly ask him politely if he was all right? With a slash of his saber, he would be in trouble. But if it wasn't him, Ing Wuji believed in his own eyes. He definitely wasn't mistaken. This figure was undoubtedly Lu Ye. That period of time spent together and being at his beck and call was not a waste of time. Was this friend from Lonely Mountain City? Don't worry, I'm also from the myriad Devil Ridge, Lu Ye said. Ing Wuji chuckled. He roared in his heart, I don't believe you. Don't try to trick me. Right now, his mind was filled with thoughts of how to secretly send out a message or tell the Cloud River tier cultivators waiting outside to scatter and flee. Lu Ye was here. If they didn't flee, they would definitely be slaughtered. Just as he was thinking this, Lu Ye suddenly raised his hand and turned the back of his hand to activate the battlefield imprint on the back of his hand. Look! The red light imprinted in his eyes made Ing Wuji so excited that he almost cried. He had never felt so close to this red light before. Almost collapsing, Ing Wuji sheathed his saber. Fellow Taoist, you scared me to death. The saber could be sheathed, the beast could be sheathed, and the face could be covered, but the battlefield imprint couldn't be faked. This was a gift from the heavens. The red light was from the myriad Devil Ridge, the blue light was from the Grand Heaven Alliance, and the yellow light was from the Heavenly Secret Commerce Alliance. This was common knowledge that any cultivator who had just embarked on the path of cultivation would know. So this person was indeed from the myriad Devil Ridge. Lu Ye looked surprised. I'm just cultivating here. What's there to be afraid of? I mistook you for someone else, Ing Wuji explained. He looked Lu Ye up and down. You really look too similar. Someone else. Under the mask, Lu Ye's eyes flashed. It seems that person has left you with many bad memories. Ing Wuji sighed. It's hard to explain. Fellow Taoist, you don't know. That person is full of evil and kills people like flies. Moreover, he is vengeful for the smallest grievance. He is a complete villain. However, that person is very powerful. I'm no match for him. I'm ashamed. As he spoke, Ing Wuji suddenly shuddered and met Lu Ye's eyes under the mask. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but Ing Wuji suddenly had a feeling that this person wanted to kill him. How did you offend him? Lu Ye lowered his eyes. Ing Wuji said, It's not about offending him. That person is from the Grand Heaven Alliance. He is a natural enemy of us myriad Devil Ridge cultivators. Click and download the best book-chasing app. Many readers use this to read books aloud. Chapter 873. Unwilling to talk about this sad topic, Ing Wuji changed the topic and introduced himself. Ing Wuji of the Dark Azura Hall, the current Lone Mountain City past Gorilla Guard. How should I address you? I've long heard of Brother Ying's name. I'm Niu Meng. He could no longer use the identity of Yi Lu. Although he had never used this alias in front of Ing Wuji, there was no such thing as an absolute secret. The 10,000 Demon Ridge had paid a lot of attention to him, and many people should know that he had used this alias before. Moreover, if he really used this name in front of Ing Wuji, it would be obvious that he was trying to hide something. As long as Ing Wuji was not an idiot, he would be able to make the connection. He could only use another name. Niu Meng, the sect leader of the Black Tortoise sect in the realm of beasts, had left a deep impression on him. I'm a loose cultivator. I don't belong to any sect. I'm currently on duty at the Eastern Mountain Pass. Ing Wuji was a bit surprised. The Eastern Mountain Pass is quite far from here. Why are you here? The map showed that the Eastern Mountain Pass was separated from here by nearly 10 passes, a distance of more than 10,000 miles. Under normal circumstances, the state guards would not cross so many passes. The environment here is good. I'm just here to cultivate, Lu Yi explained casually. I see. Ing Wuji did not doubt him. In his opinion, this cultivator called Kong Nyo in front of him did indeed have the fire attribute. It was not too strange for him to come here to cultivate. Cultivation with such harsh requirements for the environment was usually to cultivate some kind of secret art. It had nothing to do with increasing one's cultivation. Why are you here, Brother Ing? Ing Wuji explained, It's like this. The pass needs some earth fire. After the mission was issued, I led a team to collect it. Will I disturb Brother Nyo? You do what you need to do. As long as you don't come here, it's fine. In that case, I'll have to trouble you. Ing Wuji cupped his fists, thinking that this Niu Meng was quite easy to talk to. Lu Yi nodded and said no more. He continued to activate the power of the talent tree, letting the roots of the talent tree reach into the magma and devour the power of the fire. Seeing this, Ing Wuji flew out. After a while, he returned with a group of people. These people were all cultivators at the Cloud River tier, and their cultivation levels varied. When they arrived at this place, they all activated their spiritual power to protect themselves. There were quite a number of female cultivators in the group. In a group of more than 10 people, there were 7 or 8 female cultivators. They were quite pleasing to the eye. These Cloud River tier cultivators had probably received Ing Wuji's instructions in advance. After entering the mouth of the volcano, these Cloud River tier cultivators all tried to avoid Lu Ye's side as much as possible. They busied themselves on the other side, and naturally wouldn't rashly disturb him. Lu Yi was multitasking, urging the power of his talent tree while observing these people's movements. He found that they all took out a spirit artifact that looked like a gourd and threw it into the magma, controlling it with their spirit energy. After a long time, he took out the spiritual tool, took out a ball of bright flame, and sealed it in a special container. This was the first time Lu Yi witnessed the process of gathering the earth core fire with his own eyes. He finally understood how the earth core fire in the Tianji treasure trove had come about. He had originally guessed that someone had specially collected the earth core fire and sold it into the Tianji treasure trove. Now it seemed that this might be the case. The process of gathering the earth core fire was dry and tedious. The environment here was harsh, and the group of cultivators were all sweating profusely. Especially the female cultivators, whose wet clothes stuck to their bodies, looking even more pleasing to the eye. Although these Cloud River tier cultivators of the myriad Demon Ridge didn't disturb Lu Yi, they still whispered among themselves. The topics of conversation between female cultivators were endless, especially when so many female cultivators were gathered together. From time to time, laughter could be heard. As for Ingwuji, he didn't need to be so tired. His mission this time was to protect these people, so he stood at the side and quietly watched, in case something unexpected happened. Suddenly, someone complained, "I don't know who it is. God damn it, the amount of earth core fire stored in the Tianji treasure trove was extremely plentiful. Now that the earth core fire was in the Tianji treasure trove, it was quickly sold out. Now that we need the earth core fire, we have to gather it ourselves." Lu Yi raised his eyebrows when he heard this. God damn it, this seemed to be him? However, listening to the meaning of this person's words, Lu Yi understood one thing. He had always thought that the Tianji treasure trove didn't have enough earth core fire because he had bought too much. Now, it seemed that this was only part of the reason. The biggest reason was that he had bought too much, causing other cultivators who needed the earth core fire to feel a sense of crisis and buy it together with him. In the end, it led to a vicious cycle, causing the earth core fire in the Tianji treasure trove to be snatched away as soon as it appeared. The group of people complained one after another. Ingwuji glanced at Lu Yi, as if afraid of disturbing him, and turned back to reprimand everyone. Pay attention. The environment here is special, and there may be some fire-type demonic beasts hiding. A bright-eyed female cultivator covered her mouth and chuckled. With Lord Ing here, if any demonic beasts really don't have eyes and jump out, Lord can also protect us. Sisters, don't you think so? The female cultivators all agreed, as if they had placed their lives in Ingwuji's hands and had absolute trust in him. That female cultivator even said sweetly, "Lord, if we really encounter any danger, you can't abandon us. You all are used to being pampered in your own sections. How many times have I told you, this is the front line of the state guards, not your sections. Be more serious." Although it was a reprimand, his words were not harsh, and there was even a faint smile on his face. It was obvious that he enjoyed the flattery of the female cultivators. He couldn't help but sigh with emotion. This was the treatment that a proud son of heaven like him should have. In this group, he was the leader and everyone listened to his orders. His strength was the barrier that protected them. As the pairs of beautiful eyes moved, they were full of worship and faint emotions towards him. Thinking back to the time in the Wushuang continent, what kind of days had he lived? The past was unbearable to look back on, as expected. As long as there was no Luya, that bastard, I could stand up. The environment was harsh, and even Cloud River tier cultivators couldn't hold on for too long. In Ingwuji's group, there were cultivators who couldn't hold on and flew out to rest. When they recovered, they would continue to collect the earth core fire. Every time this happened, Ingwuji would take the initiative to take over the tasks of those who were resting. This attitude made the group of Cloud River tier cultivators feel that he was more approachable, unlike many true lake tier cultivators who thought that they were superior by a major tier, and ordered them around. But they didn't think about it. Which true lake tier cultivator didn't come from the Cloud River tier? The people of the 10,000 Demons Ridge continued to gain, and Lu Ye's side also gained quite a lot. The light of the dozens of leaves on the talent tree went from dark to bright, and burned fiercely again. Lu Yi didn't delay, and immediately began to investigate this spirit pattern. He immersed his mind and looked at the many burning leaves. The tearing pain in his spirit made his body sway slightly, and attracted the attention of Ingwuji, who was not far away. "Brother Nyo." Lu Yi raised his hand. "It's nothing, there's a little problem," Pringwuji said with concern. "Brother Nyo, be careful." Lu Yi nodded, and checked the huge amount of information in his mind. Soon, he understood what the new spirit pattern he had obtained was. Instantly, his face lit up with joy. Compared to the spirit pattern he had obtained previously, which felt a little useless, this spirit pattern called Lunar Reversal was undoubtedly much more useful. Unlike the useless spirit rune from before, which he had never seen in books, he had seen the lunar reversal spirit rune before. It was just that it was too complicated to construct, much more complicated than the void spirit pattern. Not only was it complicated, but it was also very difficult to construct. Lu Yi had tried to construct it before, but he didn't succeed. Originally, he wanted to practice more when he had time in the future. He wanted to practice and improve his proficiency in constructing this spirit pattern. He had been constantly on the move and busy cultivating, so he didn't have time at all. But he didn't expect that this spirit pattern would be activated on the talent tree. He didn't see the void spirit pattern that he had been longing for, but he obtained lunar reversal instead. This was really a case of planting flowers with the intention, not blooming, but planting willows with the intention, not growing, and willows with the intention, not growing. Lunar reversal was the core spirit pattern of a type of spirit pattern called the Great Counter Formation. This formation had the characteristic of reflecting the enemy's attacks, especially some spells that left the body. The rebound effect was very obvious, and it had a certain effect on direct attacks like swords and sabers. When this spirit pattern was constructed alone, it also had the same effect. It could be said that this was a spirit pattern that was specially used to defeat the strong. If he encountered a strong opponent, this spirit pattern might be able to display some miraculous effects at the crucial moment. To Lu Yi, this was undoubtedly a very useful spirit rune. Including the previous spirit pattern, he had already activated 2 spirit patterns on this trip. He had gained a lot. Naturally, Lu Yi wouldn't be satisfied with this. It was rare to find such an environment, so he naturally had to make the best use of it and let the talent tree eat its fill in one go. Moreover, there was also a small team led by Ing Wuji competing at the side. Looking at them, it was very likely that there would often be cultivators from the Myriad Demon's Ridge coming to collect the Earth Core Fire. If he missed this opportunity, it wouldn't be easy to find a similar environment in the future. On the talent tree, as the power of the fire was continuously devoured, another leaf lit up. However, Lu Yi knew at a glance that this leaf didn't carry spirit patterns, but the construction techniques of spirit patterns. These things were very useful to him. The reason why he could construct such a complicated spirit pattern like the Void at the Cloud River realm and the success rate was extremely high was that he had these gains as the foundation. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to have such achievements after only a few years of contact with the Tao of spirit patterns, no matter how talented he was in this Tao. His current attainments in the Tao of spirit patterns were mainly due to his talent and the various gains he had obtained from the talent tree. After lighting up more than a dozen leaves that carried the construction techniques, there was finally a new gain. On the talent tree, dozens of leaves once again bloomed at the same time, which undoubtedly showed the complexity and importance of the next spirit pattern. Today, Lu Yi also discovered a problem. Nowadays, the talent tree didn't have many spirit patterns that could be carried by one leaf. Most of them could only be carried by many leaves. This kind of spirit pattern was complicated to construct, but once it was successfully constructed, it would play a greater role. Argyargy Human Path Great Sage. Chapter 874. As time passed, the leaves on the talent tree continued to be ignited. Looking at the talent tree now, it was burning fiercely and engulfed in flames. It was a world of difference from when he first saw it. Although many of the leaves did not carry complete spirit patterns, Lu Yi still gained a lot. This was really a case of not opening for 3 years, but opening for 3 years. He was originally a little worried that the missing Moon Immortal would give him some other mission since he had not returned to the Ashen Flame Mountain Pass for so long. But recently, there had been no response from the Weiling, and the missing Moon Immortal did not even look for him. Lu Yi felt like he had been forgotten, but this was exactly what he wanted. If it was really like before, the missing Moon Immortal would always give him some unimportant missions, and he would not have time to do anything else. While he had gained a lot, Ing Wuji's team had also gained a lot. The team of more than 10 people continued to collect earth fire, and now, they had already collected a few hundred portions. If these things were bought from the Tianji treasury, it would not cost much merit points. But now, the Tianji treasury did not have any stock, and they could only rely on themselves to collect. There was an additional amount of merit points in the battlefield imprint, about 20,000 points. Lu Yi knew that it was his monthly salary as a guard. Counting it, it had been a month since he reported to the Ashen Flame Mountain Pass. There was still another amount of merit points that had not been distributed, because it was not time yet. It was the reward for his patrol duty. The missing Moon Immortal had given him a mission to patrol the surroundings of the Ashen Flame Mountain Pass, and also gave him the patrol duty. These kinds of missions were long-term, and not one-time, so the rewards were also distributed monthly. However, Lu Yi was not sure if he would be able to receive it, because he had been staying in the fire all this time. He had not fulfilled his patrol duty at the mountain pass. Tianji was fair and just. Since he had not fulfilled his duty, logically speaking, there was probably no chance for him to receive the reward for this mission. Every time a leaf on the talent tree was completely ignited, he would check the information it carried. However, after his fifth spiritual rune was activated, the talent tree seemed to have undergone some changes. The roots of the talent tree pierced into the magma and continued to devour the power of fire. However, the leaves on the talent tree that were not ignited did not have any reaction. This gave Lu Yi a fright. The talent tree was his greatest secret, and also what he relied on. Since he started cultivating, it had provided him with unimaginable help. If something happened to the talent tree, the loss would be too great. However, after a careful check, he confirmed that there wasn't any problem with the talent tree. Many spirit runes could still be activated and constructed at will. Right now, the talent tree was like a fairy, entering a state where one could only enter and not exit. No matter how much fire it swallowed, the leaves that were not set ablaze did not move at all. Gradually, Lu Yi discovered the root of the problem. The continuous devouring of the fire energy did not cause any changes to the leaves, but the roots that extended from the roots had a different change. The roots of the talent tree had clearly become stronger, denser, and more solid. Originally, these roots didn't look much different from ordinary root, but now they were dark red, as if they were pieces of iron that had been burned red. Such a change was undoubtedly a good thing. Lu Yi suddenly had the idea that the talent tree was transforming. Although he wasn't sure if his idea was right or wrong, based on the current situation, it was very likely so. Before the transformation, the talent tree could already bring him great help. What would it be like after the transformation? Lu Yi couldn't help but look forward to it. Lord Ing, has the temperature here dropped? A cultivator from the Myriad Demon's Ridge suddenly asked. Compared to when they first arrived, the environment here was obviously less harsh after half a month. The others were also keenly aware of this. Ing Wuji nodded. It should be because we collected too much earth fire. Although that was what he said, he was more or less puzzled. They had indeed collected a lot of earth fire during this period of time, but it was not to the extent of changing the environment here. But thinking about it, there must have been others who had come here to collect earth fire over the years, so it was not strange for the environment to change over time. What he didn't know was that besides them, Lu Yi was also secretly devouring the fire energy here, and the amount of earth fire Lu Yi was devouring was much greater than what they had collected. Hold on for a few more days, then we'll go back, Ing Wuji said. The efficiency of collecting earth fire now was not as good as it had been at the beginning. A few more days would be enough, so there was no need to stay here any longer. As he spoke, he glanced at Lu Yi, who was sitting cross-legged on the other side of the stone wall, wondering what kind of secret technique this brother ox was cultivating. During this period of time, he didn't seem to have any gains, and instead frequently made mistakes in his cultivation. 2 days later, the temperature of the volcanic crater had clearly dropped. Not only did Ing Wuji's efficiency of collecting earth fire become extremely low, but even Lu Yi could feel that the speed at which the talent tree was devouring earth fire was much slower than before. Should he snatch the earth fire that they had mined? During this period of time, they had mined at least 1,000 portions of earth fire, perhaps even more. Perhaps this would allow the talent tree to complete its transformation, but if he really made a move, then he would not be able to hide his identity, and would also expose one of his trump cards. Whether this transaction was worth it or not, Lu Yi still had to weigh the pros and cons. Before he could make a decision, there was a sudden cry of surprise. "Lord Ing!" Instantly, there was panic on the other side. Lu Yi raised his head and looked over, only to see that the members of the myriad Demon Ridge had all gathered together. Ing Wuji stood in front of them like an old hen, protecting the group of Cloud River tier cultivators behind him. He looked warily at the center of the lava pool. In the center, as the lava churned, a giant bubble burst, as if something was rushing out from the depths of the lava. Lu Yi also stood up, his expression wary. In such a special environment, it was easy for some demonic beasts to breed. Ing Wuji had previously warned the Cloud River tier cultivators under his command to be careful of any demonic beasts that might appear here. However, after such a long time, nothing had happened here, causing everyone to let down their guard. Now, by the looks of it, there really was a possibility that demonic beasts were breeding here. Moreover, looking at the great commotion, it was possible that they were not ordinary demonic beasts. "Let's leave this place first." Though Ing Wuji did not know what would happen later, this was obviously not a place to stay for long. Just as he was about to lead the Cloud River tier cultivators away, the thing that was surging out from the bottom of the lava pool appeared. It was not some demonic beast, but rather a giant stone platform. As the stone platform rose rapidly from below, the boiling lava flowed in all directions. The intense heat caused the stone platform to appear dark red after being burned, and waves of heat rolled out in all directions. The group was all shocked and uncertain. No one had thought that there would be such a stone platform hidden under the lava, and that it would suddenly appear today. Ing Wuji frowned, and was just about to step forward to investigate when he saw that Brother Nyo's figure had already swayed, and he landed on the stone platform. The giant stone platform and the tiny figure formed an extremely sharp contrast. Ing Wuji also arrived in a flash, and after looking around, he asked, "Brother Nyo, do you recognize the origin of this thing?" After so many years, many cultivators had come to the mouth of this volcano, but no one had ever discovered this thing. The timing of its appearance was a bit strange. Lu Yi slowly shook his head. This stone platform looked ancient at a glance, and for some reason, it had been submerged in the mouth of the volcano. But even so, it showed no signs of damage, and even the many complex patterns on the stone platform had not been erased. It was clear that the material of this stone platform was extraordinary. Lu Yi focused his gaze on the crisscrossing patterns, comparing them with the information of the many formation Dao imprints in his mind, trying to figure out what was going on. "Lord Ing, this thing has suddenly appeared. Perhaps there is some kind of opportunity?" a cultivator asked. Ing Wuji shook his head and said, "Don't think too much. The appearance of this thing should be related to the loss of the power of the flames here during this period of time. Previously, the power of the flames was abundant, so it could safely hide underground. Now that the power of the flames is gone, it has surfaced." After saying this, he looked at Lu Yi and asked, "Brother Nyo, what do you think?" Lu Yi nodded, "I think so too." Ing Wuji's words were in line with his thoughts. Otherwise, there was no reason for such a coincidence. During this period of time, the two of them had been wantonly absorbing the power of the flames here, causing the environment here to improve. He didn't know what this stone platform was for, but it should be related to the power of the flames. Previously, when the power of the flames was abundant, it had not appeared. "Brother Nyo is proficient in the formation Dao?" Ingwuji saw Lu Yi concentrating on studying the patterns on the stone platform and inexplicably felt a little flustered. This person's attainments in the formation Tao were not low. Lu Yi didn't even raise his head. I know a little, but I'm not proficient. He then added, it's normal for an art cultivator to cultivate the formation Tao as well. That's true. Ingwuji relaxed. Brother Ing should be proficient in the formation Tao, right? What can you see? Ingwuji said, it looks a little like a spirit-gathering array, but it also doesn't seem like one. As for what the formation Tao is for, as his voice fell, the stone platform suddenly hummed and shook. Immediately after, patterns lit up and spread out in all directions. Around the stone platform, patterns of flowers and plants lit up. In an instant, the images of flowers and plants appeared around the stone platform. 1 flower, 2 flowers, there were more than 40 flowers. Everyone could clearly feel that the surrounding heat was being wildly swallowed up by the stone platform. Many pairs of eyes looked towards a certain cultivator in the crowd. Just now, it was this person who had activated his spirit power and caused the 51 stone platforms to change like this. Being stared at like this, the cultivator was a little flustered and said awkwardly, I saw that the patterns on the stone platform were intact, so I wanted to try and see if I could activate its power. I didn't think it would really activate. He thought that rather than studying it, it was better to see it with his own eyes. I was wrong, please forgive me, sir. The cultivator hurriedly admitted his mistake.